Right, first
Hello.
things first. My apologies to everyone who lives on the West Coast.
Why? Because
Why?
you're there?
No, because it's 7 o'clock in the bloody morning on a Saturday.
So your point is what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all you East Coast wallers.
Wait, time out. It's 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and I'm up on the podcast versus sleeping off the hangover.
Wow.
That's we feel so much sympathy for you.
I bet you do.
I don't know. I got like 10 hours of sleep last night. Feel great.
Ha.
Oh, nice.
Although my eyes are all watery right now, and I don't know why. If it's allergies or I keep rubbing them. It looks like I'm falling asleep or something, but I'm not. It's just my eyes are a little watery.
You know, Steph is the only one that thought about the fact that it's St. Patrick's Day.
I really did. I put some effort into this. I was going to mention it before we started broadcasting here, but I was just going to shame you
I didn't
guys
wear a green
publicly
shirt.
on the show after we started.
Look, I spent most of my life trying to be bombed by the Irish, so they asked me to celebrate.
Bombed by the Irish? They were on the other side?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to go back to the 70s.
You don't have to review your history.
When I was in the military.
Oh, those bombs. Okay. Gotcha. In the 70s.
Search under my car every morning in case someone...
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking of World Wars, I guess.
No.
So...
No, I'm celebrating what is coming up at the 100-year anniversary of the formation of the Royal Air Force on the 1st of April. So I'm going to wear this one as much as I can.
On April Fool's Day, no less.
Yeah, it was. We think that was a great day.
Joke's on you.
The joke's on you.
Well, it hadn't gone unnoticed for the last 100 years, Jake Dana, but congratulations for spotting it.
So you guys carry on and talk to the people in the chat room and all that kind of stuff, because I need to.
I am going to wear green, by the way. It's just going to be later on. I just kind
Later.
of rolled out of bed and didn't want to.
Quickly, let me say something because I need to go do something. I'm the only one at home, and I need to take care of the doogie before we start recording. So.
Oh, so doggy needs to do.
The dog, like this one sitting back here, just leaping away the morning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course, he can't hear me, so it doesn't matter.
And my 3 at home that are being looked after.
Yes.
And I'm the only dog here, so it doesn't really matter.
Who's taking care of you?
Exactly. Who is taking care of me?
You're unsupervised.
Mr. Bloody Mary.
Oh, geez.
That's who's taking care of me.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Well, I really haven't had any drinks in like 2 months. So last night I made up for it, I guess.
Yeah, that's hard to do when you're out of shape for that kind of workout.
Yes.
It really takes a toll on you. You feel it more the next day.
It does. And there's some breakfast. There's breakfast and there's oatmeal and there's eggs and help yourself.
On the radio?
We're doing a podcast.
I get on the radio.
I get all types of people in here. It's going to be entertaining.
Excellent.
I'll try to mute as much as I can once we're
Just
really on air.
Some ambiance,
Yeah, some ambience. HR has to approve this.
Uh-oh.
Everybody's smiling.
Uh-huh.
You're actually on air? Like, yep, I'm on air. No, it's not too early for a.
It is definitely not too early for a Bloody Mary. It's 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. That's
Saturday morning, 10 o'clock.
That's prime Bloody Mary drinking time.
It's late, actually, if you ask me.
It is, yeah. You get started with that at like 7 a.m., like Nick time.
Nick time, yeah.
Nick, where's your Bloody Mary? Come on, Nick.
I'm going to have a meetup this afternoon, and I may well have a Bloody Mary, but I suspect it'll be more IPA orientated.
Beer, yes.
Yeah.
Like more hops, less tomato juice.
Yep, more frogs.
Yep.
Liz is funny. Dana's usually in air, not now he's on air.
The difference
Hey, Dana, tell your guest to shut up.
Okay, I'll tell him. I'll tell the owner of the house I'm in. Shut up.
The owner. Yeah, hey, you. Don't you know what I'm doing here?
Don't you? We're doing something important here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So my other beverage is also green, although it's not Irish, it's French. But
it'll be green when it comes out, Steph, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, it's
green going in.
clearly.
No, James, not Airbnb. It's a good buddy of mine from the Northeast that we met down here.
Ah, there you go.
Aviation speak.
Not yet. He said it doesn't sound like aviation speak. I said,
No.
not yet. Although we are.
Tell them to come back in about 2 hours, and we might
Yeah.
be talking about aviation.
2 hours, you might want to hear this. So, we are in the home of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University here in Daytona. So
That's true.
Embry-Riddle. It sounds like a kind of barbecue.
I've been stamped.
Oh, does that say saloon?
It does actually.
Oh boy. Nick is like,
Yeah.
save me now.
Nick's like, get me to the beer. Get me to the bar. I need an IPA right now. I want to
go back to bed right now.
Oh, come on. It's
Uh-oh.
what, 1 o'clock in the afternoon for you?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
2
Well, in
o'clock.
that case, I went to bed
1 o'clock.
at 5 o'clock in the morning. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, actually, it's 10. Yeah, it was 5 a.m. I went to bed.
you know, and see how it's going.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not making fun at all. I certainly would not be doing very well if I only got that much sleep.
It's mainly
poisoned.
bloody plane did injury. I realized, but I had to get it finished and done last night because I've been so busy.
Yeah.
I wrote it on the flight over, in between red warnings and bells going off on the flight day.
Yes, you'll have to share all of that with us.
Yeah, can't
I did see
wait.
that text like right as I was falling asleep last night. I was like, oh, that looks horrible. Then I went to sleep.
Well, it was
I
for a
didn't say
second.
anything about it, and I just went to sleep.
I mean, usually when it happens and you're sitting in the cruise there with your feet up, it's some idiot who's decided to smoke in the toilet. Or one of our aircraft used to have a bit of a glitch where it would bring on an aft CFG warning prematurely. And that used to terrify the wits out of us all because it's a red warning and all the bells go off.
Yep.
And, you know, when you've been sitting there doing...
Oh,
Uh-oh.
come back.
Is that Nick or is it me?
Yeah, that must be Nick.
No, it's Nick.
Oh, what's happening?
You froze for a moment, and now
Oh,
you're kind
damn.
of.
I checked the speed last night. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
That was last night.
it's good now again.
Okay.
And Jeff's a cheater. You can't just go change.
Ah.
I'm
be right
green
back.
now.
I'll be right back.
Oh,
Okay.
Lord.
I just need. Actually,
I'm
I should take it
28
off so that people
down.
can pinch me because I need to be pinched.
The
You know what
virtual.
I mean?
Well, I don't know. I'm 28 down and 25 up, so
Well,
I should be
it's
pretty
it's one of those
good.
things where it's great for half a second. It drops and then it comes back, so it plays havoc with the stream.
No, I think that's my brain. I just stopped talking for
It
half
wasn't.
a second, and then
It wasn't the
Nick
internet. It
comparison.
was just Nick actually froze.
Okay.
He was like,
it happens with age. You know,
I do know.
you just hope you're not halfway into a lift when it happens.
All right.
could be
I
dangerous.
think we might be ready here. Let me look at this schematic.
Yes, or just in the flare. It's my usual excuse for a hard landing.
I froze there for a second.
Yeah,
Somebody bumped Nick.
Sorry,
He's
sorry
frozen.
about that.
oh, dear.
Which that we'll talk about that in the show. They're one of those news items. I don't know if you saw it. They were doing touch and goes, and they kind of oopsie boo
Got away from them.
Yeah.
Right, so I got my green on. However, I'm the only one wearing aviation-related green shirts. See?
What? Mine is APG.
Yeah. Is that well? That's not aviation related, I guess. Stuff.
I guess not.
What is that? Someone spilt something on the back of your shirt, Dana?
Oh, that's a B2, I think, on the back of my shirt, isn't it?
Looks like Julie threw up on your shirt.
No comment.
You mean
I'm just kidding.
Is that B for Boeing?
no?
It's B for bomber.
Actually, my host, that's Rick. He's an aviator as well. He was for a long time until he gave it up.
Very
Potable.
sensible man.
Yeah, he's the only smart one in the room for sure.
Okay.
Actually, I think in the old days when I was in the Air Force, I used to extract the urine from all the bomber pilots, and now I can do it to all the Boeing pilots. It's the bees that's the problem.
Excuse
You
what
do
did you
what?
just say? You extracted the urine?
Yeah, take the piss.
Ah, gotcha.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
That's
of
a
some
little more
medical
literal.
procedure. Okay.
I was trying to be polite for the show, but since you insist,
Well, the idiom doesn't translate when you make it more literal.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. No, wow. You got to do it right. It's wow. Wow.
Let me see if I can do it right. If I can find it. Where is it? Ah,
wow.
darn it.
It looks like Jeff's got the clap.
Yeah, that's a wow. That's
Wow.
better than the original wow.
All right, are we ready to do the clacker?
Yeah.
Clackers.
Yeah.
Let's see. I can use a glass of Bloody Mary to
Smash it on the ground.
In future news, Dana's laptop again is destroyed by Bloody Mary spilled
Actually,
all over.
the laptop wouldn't start up this morning. I had no idea what the hell was going on.
Lord.
Okay, it might have something to do with the heavy drinking last night.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Ready.
All right.
Oh, hang on a
Three-
minute. I need to turn on my recorder first. of
Yeah,
all.
there you go. I just turned my own on.
Good idea.
I had it ready to go. I just need to turn it on.
It's not my fault. It's early in the morning. What? A new version? No, don't install. Right.
Start, please.
Why has my sessions disappeared too? Sessions. There we go.
Just do, I think it was Command 1 or Command
That's
2,
right.
I think, brings it up.
Input device.
By the time he figures this all out, I'll have to go get another Bloody Mary.
Is that? Am I right? ACC 128 kbps. Well, no, that doesn't look right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's right.
make sure it's the M4A, I think. What is most compatible or something like that? Right? Is that
Yeah,
right,
man.
Steph?
No wrong
Yeah,
with
so it should be
my wow that all matters.
128 kbps mono.
Wow.
But
M4A more compatible. Yeah, I've got it. Okay.
more compatible M4A?
M4.
I'm now recording.
MP.
I'm recording.
Is it MP4 or M4A?
I have MP4 written down. That's what you
Shit. I mean, shoot.
Mine says
I think it's
M4A more
M4A.
compatible.
I think it's
Is it
M4A.
M4A?
Yeah,
So you
it
told me
is.
the wrong thing because I wrote down what you told me, Jeff.
HR's got it all
Yeah, I
wrong.
probably-
She's trying to screw us up this morning.
It's my fault. My fault.
These guys
I
are
don't
looking
know
at me
any
like
of this
I'm
actual
nuts.
stuff, so the technical stuff.
Oh, sorry. Was I too early?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very-
That's the story of your life, brother.
Premature there, Nick.
Hey, as long as I'm happy.
That's a premature slatulation right there.
He's got the clap prematurely.
Oh, Lord.
Ooh. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Mine sounds
Now
a
for
little
a
different.
moment of silence. Well, how many people do you have in the room with you, Dana?
The entire house.
Oh boy.
Did you guys clap? Because you all went quiet there for a second and I didn't.
Yes, we clapped.
Well,
We
I
did.
didn't. So can you
Oh,
do
you
it
didn't,
again?
you didn't clap?
No, you all went quiet there for a second, so I didn't.
Well, you got to take it off mute every once in a while.
Okay, here we go. Ready again?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Jeff, you were the slowest. How can that be?
Because you're on the left coast. Well, time delay.
We're quick over here.
Hi, Peanut.
That's what she said.
Is that really a cat or is that a person? Mimicking
Sounded like a
cat?
person.
Yeah. Okay, this is going to be
Therefore-
interesting show. Oh, God. Here we go. Already starting. Okay. Let's see. We are speaking of that about 10:27. Okay. Ooh, I look fuzzy on my own screen. Can you guys?
It's just like it's out of focus because you sound fine.
Okay.
You do
Well,
sound
why is it
fine.
doing that?
I don't know.
Because the camera's on you and it broke.
Ah.
Are you using a little bit of Vaseline on the lens there?
Oh, yeah.
Hide
Is
the
that-
wrinkles.
Just
Exactly. A little soft focus. I don't know why it's doing that here. Maybe I should take
It's
it
better
off
now.
Yeah, I'm going to take
No,
the
make it
autofocus
fuzzy
off.
again, quick.
Okay. So it's still okay, right?
yes.
Okay. There we go. Let me turn that off, and so it doesn't go out into autofocus again. There we go. And here we go. And let me make sure I have my notes ready. There we go. Oh, I forgot to do something. Sorry. You guys can talk. You don't have to be quiet.
Well, I had
need to-
muted myself. So.
I'm on
I'm
mute
sorry.
too, so you guys
My
don't
bad.
have to hear
I'm
all
on mute
what's
too.
going on here.
I just needed to add something to my notes.
Thirsty Bear Organic Brewery. Ooh, I'm going to be drinking there today.
That's lovely.
That does.
We're going to be at the Broken Spoke tonight.
The Broken Spoke.
Yes, we'll be watching it.
Mate,
Unbelievable.
none of you guys can speak, so I think the Broken Spoke is very appropriate.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
You're going to be watching what, Dana?
Hairball, which is an unbelievable 80s
Hairball?
tribute. Yep, Hairball. It's an 80s tribute band, and they come out with three songs each, and of different hair bands from the 80s, and they like Ozzy Osbourne's dressed up as Ozzy, and then Kiss, he's dressed up like Kiss, and it's unbelievable show.
So people dress up as themselves?
No, they dress up as the band that they're tributing or playing tribute to.
Sorry, I thought you said Ozzy Osbourne and Kiss were there.
No, yeah, well, you would think that they were there, the way that they dress up, but it's an unbelievable show. And the new addition this year was Prince. We saw them on Wednesday night. Man, it was unbelievable. So if you're anywhere in the North Florida area, come over to Broken Spoke because it's awesome.
Awesome.
Okay. I think I'm ready now. Sweet. Here we go. 3:15. Where is it?
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 315.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show was recorded on the 17th of March, 2018.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Put your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode,
Forgot to put that news in there, didn't you?
no, I got it in there.
Oh,
It's just
shoot.
that did you hear it? It skipped.
No.
You didn't hear it skip?
I heard it skip.
Thank you.
What are you using, a needle on a
Yeah, I bumped the
got
turntable.
vinyl now?
I bumped the turntable.
It just sounds better when it's on vinyl, you know? You got to go for that.
Okay.
You know what I could have done? I could have just kept going because that was a separate track anyway.
Ah, damn.
Dang it.
There's another minute of my life wasted.
Wow. Is right.
Well then.
Yeah, who is a
really
grumpy
killed me.
pilot? Now, what's your body clock time? It's like 15, 14, 31. It's 2:30 in the
we've
afternoon.
already been through this
13.
conversation with
Oh, I
Steph.
wasn't here when you had it.
Well, I went to
Sorry.
bed at 5:30 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Body
Well, why did you do
clock
that? That was
so-
stupid.
He was doing plane tails. That's how dedicated he is.
And because I'm here on the West Coast, so don't tell me what my body clock's doing. I haven't a clue.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show was recorded on the 17th of March, 2018.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy. Picture light and he's flying by. With the airline pilot guy.
In today's episode, helicopter crash in the East River, crash in Kathmandu, bad news for pets on jets, more news, your feedback, and this week's plane tale, Lady Lex and Scoop's Wildcat. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 315 is ready for pushback. Yay! This is where we hear the applause. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast, and I am Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting, as I said, live from the headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. And joining me today is
Doctor?
a doctor,
Doctor? Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
a skydiver, a marathon runner, strength training junkie, an IPA connoisseur, commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff. It is so good to be back with you guys. I'll just say real briefly, I'm pleased to say that the contract negotiations were successful, so I am able to rejoin you all and hopefully be here for a long time to come without more breaks. But
Yeah, how much you getting nowadays, Steph?
I'd rather not say, actually. But let's just say it was successful. So
Yeah, we don't want to cause any
strife
problems
amongst
with the rest of the crew.
I'm going on strike. See ya.
let's just
Okay.
say that it was
I'm off.
significant multiplication of my previous salary.
Yes, multiple times her
Yes.
previous salary.
Damn.
Yeah, well, speaking of crew, we have from his mobile studio by the bay, professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, currently captain for an international airline based in London, Captain Nick Anderson.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, the very rich Steph who's going to buy herself another boat and a Jeep with doors this time if she can afford it.
Nah.
Lovely to see you. Yeah, I've struggled all the way across the world to the far side of this vast continent. God damn it, this place is big.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll take that as a
exactly.
compliment.
Yeah, if I kept on going, I'd have been back in the ocean. So I'm very glad we stopped.
We're glad you stopped as well. And also joining us last but not least from Bike Week in Daytona Beach, Florida. Barbecue master, bourbon connoisseur, motorcycle riding pilot for a major U.S. legacy carrier, soon to be Captain Dana.
Good morning from the sunshine state of Florida in Daytona Beach, home of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Sitting here watching some friends around the studio, my mobile studio, and glad to be able to join everybody and having another great show. As I just watched the cat sneak out of the house, that's why you heard me go grumble here. So anyways, glad to be back.
There
Another
was a
great show.
real cat there. I thought it was just somebody mimicking a cat.
No, there's 4 cats here actually, and I don't
Oh.
like cats, but Peanut is the coolest cat. It might as well be a dog. So
I thought you were allergic to cats.
highly allergic.
Oh, do you have medication or something to?
I'm taking lots of medication. But last year was the experiment. Last year when I was on the show via my phone, I was here for a week, and that was the experiment. I took several different medications, and this year it's working just as well. So I'm happy to be able to stay at my friend's house and enjoy another fantastic week of motorcycle nirvana.
Well, tell us about that, Dana. What's the big deal about Bike Week? Is that a big deal for Harley Davidson and other big giant bike riders?
It's a huge deal. I don't know how many bikes here, but I've got to guess probably in the order of over 100,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and Main Street is a big deal. It's one street where on both sides of the street, especially at night, it's really cool. Both sides of the street completely lined up, or bikes on both sides, and you get all, everybody showing their lights, and then everybody rides up and down Main Street with their really, really cool. A lot of people have choppers. I don't know if anybody knows, other than a helicopter. Chopper is basically a custom bike. A lot of people have bring those type of show bikes into the Daytona area or any type of motorcycle event, and it's really cool. Just sit back and people watch. Maybe 100,000 bikes on Main Street. Maybe there were probably 300,000, maybe 400,000 people there last night or more. So it's a great time. Just it's amazing how many doctors, lawyers, pilots, all the professionals in the world that get up, dress up in their Harley gear and want to look tough and grow out a little bit of a beard and have a great time. So we're all rubbing elbows. As a matter of fact, I met 3 Embry-Riddle students last night, talking to them at this place called oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. I said to say fat, but yeah. Oh my word! I go to the place all the time, and I can't remember the name.
Where did Dana's brain go?
It went.
Oh
no! This thing getting old. Oh my God, getting old stinks.
Sure, it wasn't just the activities of last
Froggies.
night? Okay.
I got it. Froggies. Froggies. It's an unbelievable location on Main Street. So, yeah, just having a great time hanging out with. If you hear some background noise, I'm at my buddy Rick's house, who is a fellow aviator. He actually went to Riddle. He's from the Northeast as well, in the Boston area, and he is no longer flying. He gave it up. He was doing the flying checks, flying traffic, flying pipeline patrol type of flying before, and he actually did a little air ambulance out of Yuma, Arizona. So it's great hanging out with him, but you might hear some background noise because it's my, all the guys that are here in the house. Plus,
well, tell him to keep it down and shut up.
No,
I'm just
it's
kidding.
ambience, man. Bike week.
Did you ride your bike down, or did you trailer, or how does that all work?
Well, this year decided to trailer because it's not exactly the warmest weather. I mean, the other night I was screaming like a little girl because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. It was about 39 degrees, and I was on my bike. It was cold.
Ooh.
So it was terrible. And I had every layer, bit of clothing, stitch of clothing I had on, and I was still freezing. We decided to trailer down because the lovely Miss Julie, my better half, she worked Tuesday, and we decided to leave Tuesday after she got out of work. So don't like to ride the motorcycle, especially on open road at night. So we put it on the trailer and brought it down. And then Sunday, 50 to 60% chance of rain. So best place to be is inside a truck trailering versus being on the motorcycle. I've been on the motorcycle in ice cold rain, and it's miserable. So we decided to bring it down on the back of the trailer.
So how's the weather today? Is it not raining?
Finally, it was actually, believe it or not, it's almost like they took a snapshot from last year of the weather and moved it to this year, because the beginning of the week all the way up until Friday was pretty chilly. Last night actually got chilly. Yesterday was a very nice day, like mid 70s. Today, finally, it's supposed to be 81 degrees, I think is what the prediction is. And of course, as soon as we leave, it's supposed to be in the 80s the entire time. And it was in the 80s the entire time before we came. So it seems to be bike week. It works out that way. But
well, it's raining here and 55 degrees. So
perfect. So even more the reason why I'm glad I trailered, because riding back up north in that cold is miserable. And then a lot of live events here in Daytona. We were going to see a man called Hairball tonight at the Broken Spoke, which is an outdoor venue. But this band is unbelievable. Anybody that likes hair bands, and hair bands being from the 80s-ish era. When they say hair, they mean fuzzy hair. Most people can't see my hair, on the radio show, but I'm wearing my spiked hair. It's amazing. The actual bands play usually 3 songs in tribute to each band that they play. So in other words, they'll play 3 songs from Kiss. And Kiss, the lead singer comes out dressed in the makeup, in the exact same outfit. Or if you see, they play tribute to Ozzy. The guy looks like Ozzy, dressed like Ozzy, sounds like Ozzy, and then even Prince, guy looks just like Prince, sounds like Prince, and they're not, they're not. It's live music. They're not. It's not pre-recorded music. So they actually go out and find people that sound and look just like the artists. It's an amazing show.
Oh,
So
my. That sounds
it's
great.
one of the best things about Bike Week, other than the liquid consumption, is the amazing people watching and amazing shows that we get to get to go witness. And speaking of liquid consumption, Julie is still in bed. She's not feeling so good this morning.
Oh no.
I'm just kind of chuckling in the live chat room here. Nev says, this is a vocabulary that I can only hope to understand one day.
Nev, I understood every word of that perfectly. I don't know why. Serious.
That's funny. All right. Well, very good. Glad that you could make it. I was not planning on you being with us here. I'm glad you were able to arrange it so that you could.
I'll leave if you like. I mean,
No.
I know I'm ruining the
stay
show.
there.
I mean,
Stay there.
Can we take a vote?
Well, let's move on to, you know what? We're going to save the best for last. Sorry, guys. Captain Nick, what is going on with you? You're over there in, as you mentioned in the beginning, the West Coast, up on the Bay, the San Francisco Bay. So what's new with you?
Certainly, sir. Yeah, this is not a very common trip for us getting out here, because the bin liners generally do it. But we've got yet another bin liner, AOG, waiting for spares. So the Airbus is back on it again, and it's a very pleasant place to come. It's quite a long way. We did well over 10 hours to get here yesterday. And we're in a new hotel, so I haven't a clue where it is, other than it's somewhere near Union Square, which I gather is good. And had an interesting flight out. I was busy working on plane tails, so that I recorded as soon as I got into the hotel last night, so I'd have it ready, because I've had a pretty busy week, quite honestly. Mainly just in the office, in our headquarters, doing safety and equipment procedures training, and then we get a whole day of management presentations on how the company's doing, and changes that might be happening. A lot of it commercial in confidence, so I can't talk about it. But in between those 2 days, we get a nice meal out with the management guys, who take us all out for a big meal and pay for the bill, and we drink like fish and eat like Dana and have a good time. So
Excuse me? Excuse me?
I didn't think you'd spot that, Dana. So I've been a bit busy. So I wrote the plane tales coming out, and I was just sitting there with my laptop open and watching the world go by. And we get a few things on the Airbus that ring the bells and come up on a big red master caution, and all hell tends to break loose. And the ones that you always think of, like fires, engine failures, all those main ones. But there are a couple that are still important, but don't require quite as much panic in the flight deck. Like somebody decides to smoke in the toilet, and we get a toilet smoke alarm. Or one of our aircraft used to have a tendency to bring on an RC of G warning prematurely, and that used to do the same thing. And I tell you, when it's all quiet and you're both sitting there and just watching Greenland disappear under you, admiring the scenery, when the bells go off, it does really get your attention. And yesterday we had one that came up and said that we're at flight level 380, and we tucked the flaps away, straight after takeoff. So we haven't touched anything since. And the warning came up and said that the flap lever wasn't at 0 anymore. And we went, what? so all the bells are going off, and I'm looking down going, that flap lever is at 0. And what's more, our flaps are stowed. And we canceled the warning and looked at each other. And then we got another warning telling us that one of the flap slack control computers had decided to hide in the corner and wasn't going to play anymore. So that I suspect there's a sensor on the flap handle that had just gone out of tolerances and brought up the warning and the flight control computer went, "Nah, I know you're a broken sensor, so I'm gonna turn myself off."
Oh, so
Which it did.
smart.
It is clever, but just for those few seconds until we kind of analyzed the situation. And what's more, it was a rather sweet moment because we had this lovely young cabin crew member, absolute classic Acme Red young lady, pretty blonde, vivacious, very young, had just walked on the flight deck to introduce herself and sit down and have a chat to us. And for about like 10 seconds, there was nothing but swear words coming out from the pilot. So when we sort of dealt with this and turned around, she just disappeared. She had just gone, "I'm out of here."
Now, wait a minute. I'm trying to picture this. The first officer probably thought, "Oh, she's cute," and to turn around in his seat, he probably grabs the flap handle to,
I never thought of that. My first officer is a lovely guy. Well, this is the one that was sitting. I've got two on this flight because of the long flight. The one that was sitting beside me is a huge bear of a man. He's called Johan. He's a Swedish, and he's an absolute brilliant bloke, funny as hell, and he's the size as half a house with a huge beard, just as you imagine a sort of woodsman or a
Viking. Viking.
That guy from the wild north. He's half Viking, half Scander hooligan. As we sit beside me, so I don't. Yeah, he was a pretty good man to have in a in a fight, a bar fight. So I don't know if he was trying to chat her up or not, but it wouldn't take much for him to knock the flap lever. But
Very
no,
good.
it was just a false indication.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we got here fine, and I checked in with some folks. Now, it was a bit of a hit and miss as to whether I was going to get here because my roster had changed several times. So I sort of didn't plan on doing anything, but I've had so many contacts with local West Coast guys and girls since I've arrived that I decided to try and organize a meetup for this afternoon. Now, I know most San Franciscans won't be listening to this right now because it's not even 8 o'clock in the morning and it's Saturday. So every
He's frozen again.
Yeah.
Someone go shake Nick.
So what?
You froze again there.
Am I back?
Now you're back.
You're back.
Okay, great. The Thirsty Bear Organic Brewery. Thirsty Bear. It's in the middle of San Francisco. I haven't been there. I'm told it's about a 10-minute walk from Union Square. So hopefully see as many people that can make it there. No real time. I'm going to be there after the show finishes. I'm going to wander over there, grab some lunch, and just be there most of the afternoon.
Excellent. I've been there. I can attest to its. I don't know. It's great.
Oh, excellent. Good. Well, looking forward to that. And then I'm hooking up with Fred there, and I think we're going up to his place this evening.
Very
Nice.
good. Very good. Please say hello for all of us on the crew.
Certainly will do.
All right. Let's see. Dana. No, we already did Dana. Steph.
Yes.
So, where the heck have you been these last
That's a
several
great
weeks?
question. I was actually, while you guys were talking, I was trying to look back at the calendar to even remember because it goes so far back now. I've forgotten what I was doing.
It was like
when
another month. I
It
think.
was a previous month when I fell off the face of the planet for a little while. And again, my apologies for all of that. So first of all, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. And I'd just like to point out that before the show started, I was the only one that was actually wearing anything green.
That is not true. I was wearing this nice green shirt that you're seeing on the video.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not true. So- Anyway, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone out there. So yeah, last month. So I think it's been 3 weeks since I've been on the show, or I missed 3 weeks in a row. The first week it was because I was out in Utah for a conference. Yes, a real conference. And did some skiing while I was out there. And we're going to get to that in a minute. And then the week after that, I think I couldn't make my schedule line up with your schedules for some reason. Like when everyone was working and traveling, I was stuck at work, if I remember correctly. And then
skiing.
Oh, no, I was back. I
You were
was here.
surfing somewhere in
I
South
was-
Africa or something.
I was
don't know.
here. I wasn't doing anything
Oh,
exciting or exotic, just working. And then last week I had every intention of being with you all on the show on, what was that, Sunday morning? And stuff cropped up in my personal life Saturday night, and I had to take care of that. So
I thought it was, weren't you down in Miami with Miami Rick and plotting to do your new show, the Airline Pilot People?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. See?
I have no idea what you're talking
Being very
about.
coy right now.
I think she was out meeting her agent, trying to negotiate a new contract.
There were some contract negotiations, but just to catch you up on my life, what I've been doing. I don't even know if I've said any of this on the show, and you'll have to. I apologize if I've already mentioned it at some point. I know some of it's been on social media or group chats or things like that. But exciting things. I bought a new car. It does have doors, Nick. It's the same car I had before.
But I suppose that you have to pay extra for them. I bet, though.
Yeah, you do. But it's worth it. They'll come off as soon as the weather gets warm enough. Don't worry. But now just a new Jeep Wrangler. I like my Jeep Wranglers, and
it's a pretty color.
Yeah, it's a pretty bright blue. And actually, it was really the whole reason I bought it was because I've been looking at that color for a long time, and I decided I really wanted it. And one showed up on the local dealership lot, and I said, "Yeah, heck with it. I'm just going to go get it." So it is a bit fancier than the Jeeps I've had in the past. It has all kinds of things that Jeeps just should not have, like heated leather seats, and I don't know how that's going to go when I forget to put the top on and it rains, but we'll find out. So
now you know why she was requesting the pay raise.
These things don't come for free, So that was actually.
I noticed that Captain Nick in the chat room says only girls buy a car for the color.
That Captain Nick, he's so correct. No, but I buy the Jeep because I love the Jeep Wrangler. So, and this is actually the fourth one I've owned.
In the last 3 years.
No, my first one I bought in 1999. So anyway, I was out in Utah and I did some. I'm a skier, so I bring my ski boots out with me, and what I do is I'll rent demo skis so that I can try out new things, and I don't have to check my skis and drag them across the country because that just gets really annoying. But it's easy enough to bring my own ski boots so they're nice and comfortable. But the first day I was out there, I decided to go out with some friends and go snowboarding. And I did that because I've skied with them in the past and our skill levels don't quite match up, but I thought I could match them a little better snowboarding. I'm not as good of a snowboarder. It's been a long time since I've done it, probably 5 years or so. And I was like, oh, this will be great. I'll rent a snowboard and the boots will be so much more comfortable than ski boots. Well, I'll tell you what, I got up there on the slopes and those boots were not comfortable at all by the time I started snowboarding. And we only were out there for a couple of hours in between the conference sessions, and my foot was really, really, really sore. The side of my leg was really sore. I was like, I just kind of overdid it. It's probably because I'm not a great snowboarder. My technique was terrible. But this whole time I've been running and training for marathons and things like that. So of course I kept running with my sore foot, and I think I've developed a horrible case of tendonitis. I did x-ray it just to make sure there were no stress fractures or anything. But that leads me to the following week. I don't know, what week was this? I think the weekend of the 3rd and 4th. I was out for my long training run. I was doing 20 miles, and I was 17 miles into the 20 miles. And I think because my foot was sore and bothering me a little bit, I just didn't pick it up as I was running fully and tripped over my own foot, over nothing, flat surface, and fell down right onto my hand. And I broke my finger. So that was exciting.
Oh, that was finally determined that it was actually a break?
It's actually broken. Yeah.
Oh.
But it's better now. I mean, I can, bend and extend, and it doesn't really hurt anymore. So kind of right in almost within the joint itself is where I actually broke it. But the hand specialist that I work pretty closely with took a look at the pictures. They said, no, that's actually not a bad place to have a break because it's pretty much within the joint capsule. So that keeps it stable. So there's no reason to splint it or restrict range of motion. He said, in fact, just keep moving it and bending it so it doesn't become stiff and tight. So that was good. And what else?
Stiff and tight.
Yeah. the joint.
That's what she said.
What else? I think that's about it. Those were the big things. New car, broken finger, marathon training, the usual work.
The usual.
So did that affect your ability to give people their therapy?
No. Not at all.
Okay, good.
For the first, day or two afterwards, I had a little bit of trouble writing, but fortunately, I'm a doctor and no one can read my handwriting anyway, so it really didn't make a noticeable difference.
Well,
I thought Dana was going to ask if that affected your ability to extend your middle finger.
No, fortunately, I spared the middle finger. I did have a
Okay.
little bit of bruising on the ring finger as well, but that was not broken. So, but I'm not sure how I managed to get those two fingers and not the the one in between.
Jeff, it is a family show after all. I'm trying to be nice.
Yes, you are, and thank you.
I
very
thought I
much
was
for that.
mute on the previous comment. Sorry.
Let's see. Well,
That's
it seems like there would be more than that, Steph. You've been gone for so long.
I know, but everyone thinks I lead this really exciting, glamorous life, and truthfully, I really just work a lot, and
Yeah.
that's about all I've done. So,
Good work ethic.
yes. I wish it was more exciting. You know what is missing from my life, and I need to get back out there and do. I haven't been
Justice?
Flying.
Wow.
Harsh. Flying. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I need to get out there and go flying. And actually, I think I've gotten to the point where I actually need a BFR. So I'm gonna have to get that all set up and talk to
I'm
Dave.
available.
I know. Yeah, maybe we should set up some time. But
Absolutely.
Well, so I was
Yeah.
thinking about you, Steph, when Stephen and I flew as Mooney to Greenville downtown. I remember the time that you and your dad flew the
Yeah, we
Cirrus
came out there. Uh-huh.
over.
yeah, that wasn't actually that long ago. But no, I just need to get myself current again and out there, and that's on the to-do list in the very near future. So hopefully, I'll have some nice flying updates here in the next few weeks.
The chat room is saying that they were hoping that I was going to show up on the show with a green mustache, and I wouldn't even know how to do a green mustache. Is there something you can spray in your hair or something? I
Spray
guess,
paint.
Green Kool-Aid.
Spray paint. Thanks, Dana. That would be very helpful. Go to Home Depot and just grab a can of green spray paint and spray it on your mustache, and it'll be easy to get out.
You just start the morning with a spinach health drink.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
green smoothie.
Okay. Well, next time maybe. Let's see. I had a 4-day trip this week. Went to mostly Omaha. Ended up Omaha the first night, Miami the second night, Omaha the third night, and then home on Thursday. But when I was going through on the second day through Minneapolis, St. Paul, very short turnaround time between Omaha and Minneapolis Miami. I bumped into, well, not really, but I met Jim Schofield. He was at the departing gate. We went into gate F11 or something, and we had to leave or go all the way down to the southern part of the terminal to gate G21 or something like that to catch our flight to our airplane to Miami. And Jim was there at the gate, and I've talked about Jim before. We've met up before a few times. He's sent in several pieces of feedback, so I just wanted to do a shout out to Jim. He's a ground worker, a ramp worker for Acme in Minneapolis. And just wish that I had had more time, Jim, to spend talking with you, but unfortunately they wanted to operate the flight on time. So that's the way it works. Also, the next day out of Miami, heading to Atlanta, we were walking up to the gate, and this young lady looks over and says, "Oh, I feel so much better now that I see Captain Jeff." And my first officer kind of looks like, "What? How does she know who you are?" And this is Nanette, and she just sent in feedback recently, correcting me, by the way, regarding the what do you call that? The containment, the PED containment
Yes. I remember that.
system on the Mad Dog. She said, "Don't give short shrift to the Mad Dog captain." So got to talk with her. She obviously was part of the flight attendant crew from Miami to Atlanta. So it was great seeing Nanette. And let's see, what else? Just quickly, Malcolm, I mentioned this on the last episode, and let's see, today is the 17th. So tomorrow, if you're listening from London or in the London area and you want to meet up with Malcolm, he said, I'll be spending a day in London on my way back from Europe on Sunday, March 18th. Sorry for the short notice, but if anyone around London would like to get together for a brief meetup, that day should shoot me a message. So again, look for his message in the meetup folder in Slack. And speaking of Slack, let me pull that up. And by the way, if you're not a member of our Slack group, you need to be, because that's where a lot of this kind of information is discussed. And let's see, I'm trying to look through here and see. Oh, look, the old .pilot is having a meetup. Oh, he just already talked about that, didn't he? After the show today in San Francisco at
Can't
Thirsty
wait.
Bear. Yep. Let's see. Anyway, so if you want to check it all out, listen for how you can join the Slack group if you haven't done so already. By Hillel will tell us how to do that at the end of the show. So let's see. What else? Oh, some sad news. The physicist Stephen Hawking passed away. I think he was 76 years old. He passed away on the, was it the day before Pi Day, or was it Pi Day? Was it 3/13? I think that he.
No,
that
I
he
think
passed?
it was
Or was it
Pi Day,
the
because
14th?
it's the same day as Albert Einstein's birthday, correct?
Okay, I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was either the 13th or the 14th, whatever. You know what? I think I have it. I may have that in my one of my browser windows here. Stephen Hawking, 2006, died March 14th, 2018. So we were correct. Pi Day. Anyway, I saw this on liveatc.net, and apparently the folks, the fine folks at the John F. Kennedy International Airport paid tribute to Mr. Hawking on their ATIS frequency. So let's take a listen.
Kennedy Airport ATIS information offer 06510. Wind 270 at 16. Visibility 10. Your clouds at 9,000. Temperature 0. Dew point -7. Altimeter 2969. Approach and use ILS runway 31 left. Departing runway 31 left. Notices to airmen. Runway 4 right, 22 left closed. Runway 13 left, 31 right closed. Rest in peace, Stephen Hawking. Bird activity vicinity airport. Numerous cranes operating in and around Kennedy Airport. For CPDLC lodge on UKUSA. Brief Echo runway hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information offer.
See how they snuck that in there? Rest in peace, Stephen Hawking.
Yes. Very nice.
Yeah, nice little tribute from the folks in the tower at Kennedy International.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Anything?
Just another 5-minute long ATIS.
Well, you know, they didn't really have too many NOTAMs at all in there, did they?
No,
Thank
just
goodness.
those cranes that seem to be flying around all the time.
Very large birds or
Yeah,
cranes.
they don't mention the herons or the albatrosses, just the cranes. I don't know why.
Well, the cranes make a mess when you hit them. I guess the other ones don't.
Perhaps flamingos are pretty bad, though.
Ooh, that would make a huge pink mess, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'm not going to touch that one. Let's
No,
see.
moving on.
Let's move it on.
Alone, yeah. Family show, so I'm just not going to say one word.
Okay. Sorry, it was my fault. That's all I can think of as far as, yeah, so I did that nice 4-day trip, got to see some community members out there, and that's it. So I guess it's now time for us to move on to the Coffee Fund.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right. The Java Jive, sung by the great Jeff Smith, is your way to support the show in a financial way, only if you have the resources to do so. And you can find out about how you can become part of the Coffee Fund cadre by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And we have some new producers. Yay! Since the last show, we have Chad Ryan, Paul De Silva, Rob McCallum, Alex Marquardt, and Ari Waltius, or Ari, I'm not sure, A-R-I-E. Anyway, welcome new producers to the show, and also a new executive producer, Eric Knoll. So thank you everybody for signing up to be a patron via Patreon. And again, you can learn more about how you can join the fun in this group of folks by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. One of the perks, by the way, is get to listen to the APG crew logs that we put out there, and we're doing that even more often than we used to in the past. So check it out, airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. Thank you, everyone.
Stand by for news.
Okay, we're going to start with the first item in the news folder, which is a helicopter crash in the East River off of Manhattan. The red helicopter carrying 6 people zoomed over the East River, flying along a popular route for sightseers who want to view the Manhattan skyline. But something appeared wrong with its path on Sunday evening. It was flying too fast and descending too quickly, witnesses said. From high-rise apartment buildings and parks along the river, they watched as the helicopter, losing altitude as if it were landing on solid ground, plunged into the chilly water. Its swirling rotors chopped into the river, eventually coming to a stop as it tilted, capsized, and began to sink shortly after 7 p.m. Moments later, the pilot escaped, climbed to the top of the wreckage, and yelled for help, a witness said. A flotilla of tugboats and emergency boats converged on the crash site, a couple of hundred yards north of Roosevelt Island, and began a frenzied search for others on board. Let's listen to some of the ATC live audio.
LaGuardia, good evening. Helicopter 350 Lima Hotel.
Helicopter 350 Lima Hotel, LaGuardia Tower, squawk 0205, take position request.
0205, Newtown Creek 900, light takes up the East River on station. North End, Central Park, south of the center line 31 at all times at 2000 disabled for 0 Lima Hotel.
0 Lima Hotel, you can class reference speed test west below 2000, altimeter 3006. Just remain south of the center line at 31.
All right, clear in 2000 south of the center line. Now we get Alpha Golf over there. We'll maintain visual for 0 Lima Hotel.
First, thank you.
0 Lima Hotel, mayday, mayday, mayday.
0 Lima Hotel, LaGuardia, you okay?
East River engine failure.
I'm sorry, say again?
East River engine failure.
They come a little broken. I say it one more time?
He had an engine failure over the East River, Lima Hotel.
Okay, you require any assistance?
It was a mayday call, LaGuardia.
Okay, I got it.
LaGuardia, did you have his position, the last position reported for him?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
5 Alpha Golf, Cody.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You see Lima Hotel down there in the East River?
No, sir. We're going to make this pass, or we're going to do a run down the East River and look for him. Did NYPD get notified, please? They have some police boats out?
Yeah, they were on the phone with them now.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just trying to get a exact location. It was at the north tip last time I saw him. 7 Whiskey Alpha, after Harlem, what you want to do?
We're going to take it across Midtown south of the Empire State Building. If you need any assistance before we turn, let me know.
You're going to take the East River going down that way?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, just let me know if you see anything in the East River. 0 Lima Hotel report going down over by the north tip.
Copy that. We'll hold up on station once we pick them up, make sure everybody's okay. LaGuardia 5 Alpha Golf, if you don't mind, if we could shoot over to north tip of Roosevelt, take a look for him, please.
5 Alpha Golf, that's for Roosevelt traffic, helicopter north tip southbound. Helicopter currently at 600. He's going to be up here climbing up shortly.
Thank you, Alpha Golf. LaGuardia 27 Whiskey Alpha is directly above the site. It appears the aircraft is inverted in the water.
Right, thank you.
Does he have floats?
Everyone up, thank you.
Does he have floats? The aircraft is upside down.
Roger, we're relaying the information now. Thank you.
Boat is pulling up on scene right now.
Roger, thank you.
LaGuardia 7 Whiskey Alpha at the scene. There's one different pilot there, so he's out on top of the aircraft.
Okay.
All right. Well, there's a little bit left in the in this audio here, which you can listen to the whole thing by going to airlinepilotguy.com and today's episode, and then you can find that link in the show notes, and you can listen to the rest. But that was the bulk of the audio there. And again, the helicopter crashed into the East River. It was on a photo sightseeing photo shoot kind of a flight. Apparently they had removed the doors of the helicopter so that the photographers could have a better shots, better access, without the doors, blocking the view. And because of that, they were tightly harnessed in the helicopter, and the report says that emergency responders had to cut the passengers out of their harnesses. And that's one thing that the NTSB is taking a look at now, because apparently these harnesses were configured such that you had to take a knife to basically cut yourself out of them. That was part of their safety briefing. And let's see, I'm trying to find some of the text here. Eric Adams, a travel journalist based in Pennsylvania, said on Sunday night he had been on a similar flight which took off soon after the helicopter crashed. The helicopter was a doors-off flight, Adams said, meaning the sides of the craft were open to the elements. Passengers on such flights, able to take pictures in the open air, are strapped into their seats tightly. He also said that the same safety briefing as the passengers on the crashed helicopter he received had lacked fundamental details. It was a doors-off flight with harnesses, Adams wrote on Twitter. They would have been difficult to remove in an emergency since you're attached from the rear. They provide knives to slice harnesses, but didn't physically point out where they were once we had them on. We had flotation devices as well. Liberty Helicopters did not respond to a request for comment.
Yeah, really sad, tragic story there. And it's funny, you think about it initially, it's like, well, the doors were off. So if, assuming that they don't have serious injuries from the actual impact of the crash, you would think that would make egress from the helicopter a lot easier, but not if the harness is attached, basically at your back, and you don't have a way to easily access the release mechanism, and you don't know where the knife is to, actually cut through the harness and get yourself out. Not that that would be easy to do once you're actually in cold water anyway. That's just a really, really terrible situation. Very sad.
I would hope that the investigation looks closely at the reason for this type of harness, because health and safety probably says that we can't afford to have you guys accidentally opening your harness because you're unfamiliar, there's no door, you could fall out, etc. But there's got to be a balance between that and being able to open it in an emergency.
Exactly.
So, I have to agree with the doors are open. Your route to safety is so simple. You're just going to release your harness and roll out of the door. And not to be able to release your harness in that situation is just an appalling error.
Yeah. The other thing, some people they're also going to look at what exactly happened to cause the helicopter to come down or for the engine to fail. And the pilot reportedly said that he thought that one of the passengers' bags had somehow bumped the emergency fuel cutoff switch or something to the single engine. So they're going to check that out as well. But what else was I going to say? Oh, when I was looking at the video, I was thinking to myself, oh, it looks like it has floats, because there were these big floaty looking things on the skids, and apparently those are like emergency floats that can be activated from one of the control devices in the aircraft. I believe that it's a requirement to have the switch or the activation mechanism for activating these emergency floats somewhere easily accessible to the pilot. And apparently that was one of the things that he was able to do. He actually activated the emergency floats before the helicopter hit the water. Unfortunately, it looks as if one of the, I think it's 3 flotation devices on each skid, and it looks like one of the flotation devices on the right skid didn't fully inflate or inflate at all, and they're thinking that might be why when it hit the water it ended up capsizing or rolling over to the right. So again, they're going to be looking at that as
all those Swiss cheese holes lining up for those poor passengers, all 5 of them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very sad.
And we've got to mention the air trafficker's query to the
Yes.
Mayday call. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Do you need any assistance?
Yeah, right.
No.
Give me a break, man.
I mean, there's a lot of discussion going on about this in the live chat room right now, and I think everyone is correct that he probably really meant to say, "What assistance do you need?" The question really was, "What can I do to help you?" Except he's caught off guard too, because you're just like anyone else. You're sitting there doing your job, and an emergency suddenly happens, and you try to get the words out, and it just doesn't come out quite right, and it sounds very insensitive on his part, but.
Right.
Hopefully, benefit of the doubt, he was really trying to say, what assistance can I get you?
Yeah, like that startle effect. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it sounds horrible when when you listen to it on the recording, because it just sounds like he's going, well, do you need assistance? And then you got the other guy chiming in going, it was a Mayday call.
Yes.
Very sarcastically.
Mayday call,
very
LaGuardia.
sarcastically.
You
Very,
idiot.
very New York, But
Yeah.
I was surprised how quickly, and I'm not sure if this audio file that we're listening to was edited, so it was all compressed together, or if that was real time. But if it was real time, it does sound like things really happened quickly. I mean, people were on the scene very, very quickly. But unfortunately, that didn't seem to make a difference for the passengers.
No, it's a pretty busy piece of water, isn't it? So I would have thought you'd get ferries or perhaps pleasure vessels. The fact that the emergency services were there so quick was really good.
Well, and it was right near the, I don't know if I actually looked at a map of where the accident actually happened, but they said it was near where was it in the East River, I guess?
It was north, just north of the of Roosevelt Island.
Oh, okay.
North,
yeah. So that's, you're still fairly close to land on either side there. I don't know where they have emergency services situated, but I would imagine fairly close, just because of how busy that.
Yeah, if you look at the
that
video.
waterway is.
Yeah, they were pretty close. I think it's something around 86th or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, East 86th, near Manhattan's Upper East Side. And yes, Liz, floaty-looking things is a technical aviation term.
At least here on the APG it is.
Yeah. If you want 100%, go to another show.
Exactly. This is not the place for you. Anything else before we move on? Got a lot of things in the news folder today.
No. Sad story, but we
yeah,
can move on.
I'm sure we'll hear more about the investigation proceeds. An update on the ATR 72 crash in Iran. On March 11th, Iran's AIB, their Accident Investigation Board, released their preliminary report in Persian. So I'm going to read it in Persian. So bear with me.
This should be good.
Just kidding. Reporting that according to the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, the aircraft had been handed over to Yasuj Tower. The autopilot was set to 15,000 feet. Descending through 15,600 feet, the crew activated the anti-ice systems. The aircraft leveled off at 15,000 feet on the autopilot. The crew set the QNH to 1021 millibars and maintained 15,000 feet for about 1 minute. Then the engines were reduced to idle. The speed reduced to 200 knots, with the angle of attack increasing. The engines slightly accelerated. The speed continued to decrease and reached 129 knots indicated. The minimum maneuvering speed here is 132. The pitch reaches 15 degrees nose up. The engines accelerate to 67% torque. The altitude target is set to 14,000 feet, and the aircraft begins to descend at about 600 feet per minute. The speed further reduces to 117 knots. A stall warning activates. The crew disengages the autopilot. The aircraft rolls 20 degrees to the left. The pitch reduces to about 9 degrees nose down, descending through 14,200 feet at 137 knots indicated. The autopilot gets re-engaged. The aircraft rolls right by 12 degrees. The pitch increases to 5 degrees nose down. A GPWS warning, terrain ahead, pull up, activates. The autopilot's disengaged. The GPWS warning continues for 12 seconds until impact. The AIB continued that there was no technical malfunction of the aircraft. The engines operated in accordance to pilot inputs. All aircraft systems supplied the crew with valid data. The AIB stated that the crew should have maintained 17,000 feet in accordance with the flight plan and the approach procedure. However, they descended the aircraft to 15,000 feet, inexplicably, I guess, followed by a target altitude of 14,000 feet on the autopilot, contrary to flight rules. In addition, while the crew was permitted to conduct the flight with the weather data available at the time of departure, the latest weather information provided by Yasuj Tower indicates clouds up to 15,000 feet, and that prohibited the approach to Yasuj according to company procedures due to cloud cover present at the aerodrome. The crew should have diverted to Shiraz or Isfahan, planned as alternate aerodromes. So, wow, it looks to me here like for some reason they were disoriented and decided to set a lower altitude than they should have at that point. Again, I think the 17,000 feet was the minimum altitude that they were required to fly on that segment of this approach over the high terrain. But so that now they're down at 15,000 feet, so very little clearance between the airplane and the terrain, and not to mention the fact that it looks like they were distracted and allowed the airplane to get into a very, very dangerous state at a very slow airspeed, very high angle of attack, and instead of disconnecting everything and hand flying the thing and recovering from it, instead it looks like they tried to turn the autopilot back on after the autopilot clicked off. So I don't know, it's very strange.
Well, it does say they disengaged the autopilot, and then they put it back on again. But yeah, why on earth would you want to get that speed so low? I'm just completely confused about that, Jeff. Would you think they were trying to do their own kind of homemade approach here? Because this is inexplicable. Their actions, and they got the aircraft into. I really don't understand.
Yeah, I think you might be right that they're thinking, well, maybe if we just go down a little bit lower, we'll get below this cloud deck and we'll be able to see everything.
Yeah.
Not.
They just weren't aware of the terrain.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
12 seconds.
It's known as cumulo granite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't understand how they managed to get so slow too. That doesn't make any sense at all, or why they allowed that to happen.
You know what this looks like? I mean, loss of control is a big deal, and it has been now for the last decade or two. And before that, controlled flight in terrain was a big problem, and this appears to be both. Maybe not controlled flight into terrain.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, initially controlled because they deliberately descended the airplane. I can't believe they didn't deliberately slow it up, because that's a hell of a speed reduction.
Yeah.
From 200 knots back to 129, and then even slower.
117.
Yeah. These are speeds that, if they were fully configured for landing, maybe these speeds would have been appropriate, but not in their current configuration.
But then to completely ignore 12 seconds of terrain ahead pull up and GPWS warnings, that is just unforgivable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no, I mean, surely there's going to be some more information, because this is just a preliminary report, and hopefully they'll have more insight as to what was actually going on, at that time from CVR data and all that. But
I hope so.
Hopefully that provides some more insight.
And I think we had talked about on an earlier show that, I wonder how transparent and how much information we're going to get from Iran's Accident Investigation Board. And I'm pleasantly surprised that we're getting as much as we're getting right now.
Yep, likewise.
All right. Well, this is a hard one to do, this next item regarding pets on airplanes. And we'll start with the sad one first. Let's see. According to a passenger on United Flight 1284 from Houston Intercontinental to New York's LaGuardia, a passenger boarded the flight with a TSA-compliant pet carrier with a small dog inside. It was a cute little 10-month-old bulldog puppy. For unknown reasons, the flight attendant insisted that the passenger stow the carrier with the dog inside in an overhead bin for the duration of the flight. The passengers reported hearing barking for part of the flight, I think approximately 2 hours. By the end of the trip, horrified passengers found the dog had died in flight. United responded to this story. They provided a statement. This was a tragic accident that should never have occurred, as pets should never be placed in the overhead bin. We assume full responsibility for this tragedy and express our deepest condolences to the family and are committed to supporting them. We are thoroughly investigating what occurred to prevent this from ever happening again. And in United's website policy on pets in the cabin, it says a pet traveling in a cabin must be carried in an approved hard-sided or soft-sided kennel. The kennel must fit completely under the seat in front of the customer and remain there at all times. So clearly, this was not following the policy. Anyway.
I mean, there's some other issues with this too that I'm going to bring up just for people who may not know about some of these dog breeds. So this was a bulldog, correct? And Nick may know more here than I do even, but these types of dogs are brachycephalic dogs, which means that they have a very short nose and they can sometimes have breathing problems, respiratory problems. And I think in general, the recommendation is that these dogs really shouldn't be on aircraft in the first place. They're not the greatest dogs to travel with when flying, just because that can exacerbate some of their breathing problems. And then you can imagine in this case where that may have been just exponentially exacerbated because of where the dog was placed. So if you have a dog that has a very short nose, bulldogs, pugs, things like that, probably in the best interest of your dog to find alternative transportation means whenever possible.
Yeah, you're quite right, Steph. They were bred this way to enable them to bite and hang on to whatever animals they were baiting. So the idea was to breed them with a short nose so that they could grip, and the act of holding on to whatever, it was a bear or a bull or another dog in the olden days, wouldn't interrupt their ability to breathe through their nose. So they bred them with the short nose for this reason. No reason why they should be bred like that nowadays. However, the breed standard continues, and if you have one of these dogs, then they will suffer from these problems. They'll suffer from an overbite, and they'll also suffer from excess material in their throats. They often have to have operations to clear their airways, just as a natural course of in their life, because that's what they bred into the type of dog. So you've got to be very careful with them when you're in a situation like this. I'm just so sad that the flight attendant made such a fuss incorrectly, and we know the fact that flight attendants have to deal with a lot of bad situations, so they're quite likely sometimes to say, well, if you don't do what I say, you'll have to get off the airplane. So I feel so awful trying to do the best to get their flight achieved, and one poorly trained cabin crew member created this entire incident.
Apparently, allegedly, we don't know the full story, but
Sure.
It sounds confusing, some aspects of this, whether or not the flight
United
attendant put it up there, or if
United have put their hands up, and they say that they what was there should never have occurred. Pets should never be placed in there. We assume full responsibility.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that United have agreed that basically that's what occurred.
They were in the wrong.
You're quite right, Jeff. It may not. It may be something slightly.
First Officer Mike in the chat room is asking, was this one of those emotional support animals? And ironically, if it had been an emotional support animal, or one so-called, this would have had a happy outcome, because I believe it wouldn't have been required to be in a kennel and stored in an overhead bin or beneath the seat in front of them. It could have been out in the lap of the passenger.
All right, so finally, I can actually add to this, and that is, number one, I'm a dog lover just like everybody on the show. I mean, I miss my baby beyond belief. However, we're only getting one side of the story on this. There's always another side to the story, and who knows?
But Nick made a good point there, though, that United did immediately very quickly say, "Yeah, we screwed up. We take full responsibility."
And I know that and I understand that, but that might be in retribution for the earlier event that they had, which was pulling the passenger off the aircraft. I'm not going to use any names or airlines in that one, but they came under a lot of fire, so they're obviously taking responsibility, because from a PR standpoint, I think it's better that they do that as quickly as possible. So I agree with that, but we're not getting the full. There's some part of this. I'm just playing devil's advocate because I am a dog lover, and certainly a dog should not be up in that in an overhead compartment, because obviously it suffocated to death, because once carbon monoxide built up, that was the end. And it's terrible. I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit on that one.
Okay, Mr. Devil.
We're only getting, Mr. Devil. That's me. I like to play devil's advocate because I like people to think about, that's just me. I like to think about all the different scenarios here. So
this was United. We can say the airline, because we don't fly for this airline, so airline names are perfectly fine to use. So it's a good thing that United didn't have any other troubles with pets this past week.
Nope, not one.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on.
Yeah.
The Swindle family was all smiles as they reunited with their dog Ergo at the Wichita airport last night.
You want to hold? Yeah. Okay, there you go.
The 10-year-old German Shepherd arrived after an unplanned cross-Pacific flight to Japan.
It feels absolutely amazing to finally have him back. It's been a long 4 days.
Kara Swindle and her family are relocating to Kansas from the West Coast. But when they went to pick up Ergo from the Kansas City airport on Tuesday, United Airlines gave them a different family's dog instead.
I walked over to the kennel and I called his name. And up popped this Great Dane instead of my German Shepherd. And it was just instant tears because this wasn't my dog.
That is not my dog.
And I had no idea where my dog was. It has been the absolute worst nightmare.
United transported more than 130,000 animals last year. 18 of those died and 13 were injured, a much higher rate than any other airline. United has apologized for the mistake and flew Ergo back on a private jet. But Kara says it's not enough.
I hope they somehow put into some policy that this never happens again, just so we can make sure that nobody ever goes through this again. Because what I have felt the last couple days, I don't want any other dog owner to ever feel again. Not knowing where your beloved pet is, it really is a nightmare.
As for the Great Dane Lincoln, he arrived back in Japan yesterday. United Airlines is still investigating how the mix-up happened and have not released any new information. They say the dogs were switched during their connection in Denver. Kara says that if they travel with Ergo again, it's going to be on a boat, not a plane.
Oh, boy.
It's hard to get a boat to Kansas, though.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they didn't think it through.
From the West Coast. I'm not aware. The waterway has not been built yet.
Actually, you can, because you go down the West Coast, you go through the Panama Canal, come up the Mississippi River, join up with I think it's the Missouri River, and then
into Kansas.
Into Kansas, yeah. So there you go.
Because that's a more pleasant trip for your dog.
Yes, very pleasant.
That'll only take a couple of weeks.
So can I state the obvious here? You can lock your wife up in the closet for 3 or 4 hours or 3 or 4 days. You can lock your dog up in the closet for 3 or 4 hours or 3 or 4 days, and I'll guarantee you what, the dog will always be very happy to see you, not the wife.
Okay, well that was some words of wisdom there from Dana. That's Dana at airlinepilotguy.com.
There's hardly any difference between a Great Dane and a German Shepherd.
I mean, very similar.
I really understood how they make the difference.
Well,
I mean,
they were
Great
like
Dane's only about
big dog, bigger dog.
What I
Yeah,
wonder is
and,
why do we
they
didn't
usually-
hear? We didn't hear anything about Lincoln.
Yeah, we did. They
only
sent it back
Ergo.
they sent Lincoln back to Japan, where
Yeah.
Lincoln
Yeah.
was supposed to be going. So
I mean, all they had to ask the dog was, where do you live? And that would have been easy. They would have sussed that.
Yeah, true. Did you like my little clipping
good.
that I put in there?
Yes.
This is not my dog.
Does your dog bite?
Yes, exactly.
You know what? You know what I find amazing about this story is how many unaccompanied minors have gotten lost.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
They
But
make a
so
much
far-
bigger deal out of the dog because everybody loves the dog unconditionally. They love us unconditionally.
True.
The kids, who cares, right?
Yeah, at least no
Yeah.
kids have died. Yeah,
Yeah.
that we know of anyway.
We know of. No human trafficking or anything going on.
Oh well, there's two of those pet screw ups at United this week. Thank goodness the week didn't have any. Oh wait, hang on.
And United Airlines apologizing tonight after a third incident this week involving a pet on a plane. A flight from Newark to St. Louis diverted to Akron after they realized a pet had been mistakenly loaded onto the plane. Earlier this week, another dog died during a flight in an overhead bin, and this German Shepherd, Ergo, was put on a plane to Japan instead of Kansas City, flown back on a corporate jet and reunited with his family. They say they will likely sue the airline.
All right.
good week for United.
Third time's a charm, I guess.
United.
Oh, dear.
So, yeah, not a good week for pets at United Airlines. I would imagine some people are going to...
Do they understand about barcode readers, and
yeah, or
And like
maybe
RFID scans and things.
yeah,
RFID,
yeah, all that stuff.
I mean, that's commonplace technology now, right?
yeah, yeah.
Makes life a lot simpler. And
Yeah, I think they're going to probably emphasize that now after all this bad PR. Oh, man. All right. Enough dog stuff. By the way, they actually chartered a private jet to send Ergo back from Japan to Kansas City. That must have cost a huge amount of money.
Well, I have to ask Pilot Pip.
According to this article, it says the average cost for a flight like that is more than $90,000.
yeah, I think I saw $90,000 quoted. So,
Yeah.
but and then I love the clip from the family at the end, or that last one. They said the family was going to sue United anyway. Like,
Yeah.
you got the dog back. He came back on it. I mean, I understand that you were, went through all this
Get some
emotional
money out of this,
turmoil, but
Yeah.
This was that one fortunately was the all's well that ends well, even though it was
Mhm.
a big screw up. So
That's true. That's true.
that I don't understand as much, but that's just me. So
All right. Well, switching from pets back to airplane crashes, unfortunately, let's play a little bit of this audio. This happened in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Star 211, can you reduce your speed further? As it descend to 1,500 feet, reduce your speed to minimum, please.
Descend to 1,500 and reduce speed to minimum, please. Star 211.
211, confirm holding over Gura.
Negative, sir. We are proceeding.
Continue approach, sir. Continue approach.
Continue approach, Bangladesh 211. Kathmandu Tower, Bangladesh 211, final runway 02.
Bangladesh 211 Tower, wind 230 degrees 8 knots, fueling component 7 knots, runway 02, continue approach.
Continue approach, Bangladesh 211.
Bangladesh 211, wind 220 degrees 7 knots, fueling component 6 knots, runway 02, clear to land.
Clear to land, Bangladesh 211.
Bangladesh 211 Tower.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Bangladesh 211. You are given landing clearance to runway 02.
Affirmative, ma'am.
You are going towards runway 20.
Kathmandu Tower, Bullard 22 to runway 02.
Okay, Bangladesh 211.
Sorry for the bad audio here, but that's the best we have to work with.
20, clear to land. Bangladesh 211, Kathmandu Tower.
Go ahead.
Bangladesh 211, request your intention.
I would like to land on 02.
Bangladesh 211 and confirm your VFR.
Affirmative.
Bangladesh 211 joined right downwind runway 20.
Copy.
Person, right downwind, runway 02, break. With the 282, descend to circuit altitude, runway 02, clear to land.
Runway 02, clear to land, descend to circuit altitude with 282.
And Bangladesh 212 traffic, final at runway 02 at 2 miles. If feasible, report sighting.
Copy, sir. We'll be approaching runway 02.
Confirm you are tracking towards runway 20.
Affirmative.
Join left, right, downwind, runway 02. I say again, Bangladesh 212, traffic is on final, runway 02, landing for runway 02.
Copy, sir. Advise, Buddha 282.
Buddha 282, go ahead.
Confirm clear to land, runway 02.
Buddha 282, FM, runway 02, clear to land.
02, clear to land, Buddha 282.
Bangladesh 211, I say again, do not proceed towards runway 20. Clear to hold at your present position.
Okay, we are making an orbit to the right. Copy. Tower 1211, making a right holding for runway 02.
Okay, that's good, but do not land. Traffic is on short final runway 02.
We know that, sir. Copy. Let us know once we have get land.
Thank you, sir. Bangladesh 211, runway clear to land, and runway is vacated, either runway 02 or 20. Confirm you need a vector?
Sir, we would like to land on 20.
Okay, runway 20, clear to land, wind 270 degrees 6 knots.
260, copy, clear to land.
Bangladesh 211, confirm you have air runway in sight?
Negative, sir.
Bangladesh 211, turn right, and you have a runway. Confirm you have a runway not in sight yet?
Affirmative, we have runway in sight, requesting clear to land, sir.
FM Bangladesh 211, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 02, Bangladesh 212.
Roger, runway 02, clear to land, Bangladesh 211.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, copy.
Army 53, due traffic, Bangladesh 211, circling runway 20, says right now, final for runway 20. Initially, can you hold at present position?
Roger, sir, we'll go.
Roger, Army 53, copy to 9 Lima Tango, Army 53 is holding at 10 miles.
Roger, sir.
9 Lima Tango, hold at present position.
Inside, sir. Are we clear to land?
Bangladesh 211, I say again, done.
Sir, back, Civic 154, clear to hold beyond 15 miles.
Copy, sir, holding beyond 15.
Army 53 Lima Tango, report position.
Lima Tango is at 9 miles, 500
okay, remain clear of Lima Tango and clear to hold at the technical area. 1 miles, report level. 5,000. 9 Lima Tango also holding at 5,000. Army 53 also holding at 5,000. Confirm? Roger, copy.
Firewall tower, Kathmandu, sir. Firewall tower, Kathmandu, sir.
Approach to Civic 154.
Civic 154, go ahead.
Surrender close, go, sir.
Airport close, sir.
Okay, again, kind of a jumble of radio communications there and not very clear. But basically wanted to play that because I just wanted you to kind of understand how there was a lot of confusion here with runway 02, runway 20. Let me set this up and give you some context for what happened here. It was a U.S. Bangla de Havilland -8 400, registration Sierra 2 Alpha Golf Uniform, flight 211 or 211 from Bangladesh to Kathmandu, Nepal, with 67 passengers and 4 crew. And they were coming into land. They were on a procedure, a VOR procedure, to bring them in through the high terrain into the airport area for landing on runway 2. But it's also used, that same procedure, to circle, do a visual maneuver to circle to the opposite end of the runway, and appears that there was some confusion as to what the intentions were of this flight that crashed. Whether they were planning on landing on runway 02 or 20. It sounds like there was a lot of confusion regarding that. And it also, based on what witnesses saw and tracks of the flight, looks like they may have actually lost sight of the runway. At one point in that audio, he said, confirm you have the runway in sight. And he said, no. And I'm thinking, well, this is a visual maneuver here. This is not an instrument approach at this point, because you've gotten down toward the airport and now he can't see the runway to which he's been assigned landing clearance. And some people are surmising that perhaps they were looking at a diagonal runway, which I'm not even sure is open anymore. It's a much shorter runway, I think 1129. And they're thinking that maybe because of the weather conditions and cumulonimbus clouds here and there, that they saw a brief glimpse of that runway and thought that that was runway 02 that they were given clearance to land on. And it turns out that, we now know that that was not the correct runway. Again, that's just supposition that may have happened.
Pet peeve of mine, and you guys tell me what you think about this, especially in the context of runway 220, using 02 to identify the runway, because in that case, you're saying both of those numbers, and it just in my mind, it becomes even more confusing. I mean, I never, or very rarely hear people say, runway 05 or 04. It's always in the context of a 220 runway. I think people do it because they think it's making it clearer. If I put the 0 before the 2, then you'll understand that I'm not telling you 20, but you're adding back in that same number. And sometimes you can hear how confusing it gets there, because it's just 2002020. It's like, well, which one did you mean? Which one did you want?
Right. Even if English is your native language, it's still confusing, but can now compound that with this is not your native language.
And I've seen this personally, because one of the airports that I used to fly into regularly when I was doing my initial private pilot training and flying for probably a good 100 hours after that, does have, as the main runway is 220, and it's an uncontrolled airport. And on days when there's not a lot of wind, and pilots out there are making their own choices as to which runway to select and use, I've seen that same confusion, because people say 0220 and they're reading it back wrong to each other, but they're not catching it because they think they know what they're hearing in their mind. So it's a big pet peeve of mine for that.
Would that be
Jeff's
Steph's?
pet peeve.
I'm sorry. I'll try that again.
Jeff's pet peeve.
Yes, that is my pet peeve. One of my pet peeves. So,
yeah,
I'm
in
just
fact, I
curious
think
what you guys think about that. But I mean, you can hear it very clearly there. I've seen it in the context of an uncontrolled airport where people are making their own selection as to which runway to use and confusing themselves in the process as well. So,
and I think that I was reading in some of the commentary on this. So this is from the Aviation Herald, that in some countries they've actually banned, using numbers like this. They'll actually make this runway
20.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, not even 220. They use different numbers.
Different numbers. Just
even
get rid
though
of that runway
magnetically,
designation.
that's
Yeah.
that
Because that's the only place where it happens. Is with that magnetic heading. Any other combination, you don't have
1331.
Well,
is the
that's
other
true.
one.
1331 is the other one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
I think the ICAO standard is to use digits rather than call it runway 2. The only problem with using 2, Steph, I would say, is if you clipped a transmission, you're trying to say 20, and you let go of the transmit button a tad early, or someone treads on you, then you can cut off that 0, and it sounds just like runway 2.
Exactly.
So there is a confusion there. In Europe and in the UK military, we always use the 2 digits. So we said 09 or 19 or whatever. Having said that, I don't think it's a bad idea, because even though I grew up doing it that way, I also grew up saying call sign 123 instead of 123. And I actually much prefer and find it easier to pick out my call sign when people aren't reading out individual digits and doing the way they do in the States, which is to group them together, as you would say, a number 23 or 55 or treble one or whatever, and use a colloquial version of your call sign rather than just reading out the digits. It has its place. I don't know if it's entirely correct for, say, just runways, but
right.
Yeah, I prefer the way of moving your runway by 10 degrees to make the numbers more sensible. Even though you physically haven't moved it, you call it
right, and
a slightly different number.
Confusion.
And we have examples of that right now in Atlanta. All the runways exactly have the same exact headings, 275 degrees, but we have runway 27 left and 27 right, and we have 26 left and 26 right, but they're exactly parallel. Also 28 on the south end, and so technically they should all be runway 27.
A, B, C, D, E, F.
Right. But to keep from being confused about it, they said, let's make these 26, make the center 27, and the southernmost 28.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have examples of them doing something like this.
And
look at that in the show notes. I don't know if you see that Google Earth picture there, where they were holding to the northwest of the aerodrome when they were trying to get everything all sorted out, because the airplane coming in behind them was landing on 02. So they told them to just hold up there near Kapan, and then they were proceeding to circle to runway 02 again. And I think that the captain may have looked out the window and saw that other short runway 1129. And it sounds to me like it wasn't a clear and unlimited kind of a picture that they were getting. They were getting maybe glimpses of runway through breaks in the clouds. And apparently, some people have surmised, as I said, that they may have looked at that short little runway, not realizing that it was not the correct orientation. And
I think you might have hit on something there, Jeff. But this comes down to, again, that poor lady who we assume was a bit maxed out with all her runway changes, trying to get into the American airfield. We covered it a month or so ago.
Houston.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the details. The most important thing for the captain to do is fly the bloody aeroplane all the time. And it's whenever you get into a situation, the first thing you say is fly the airplane and then deal with the other problems. And it's just so sad that some people allow what is happening around them to distract them so much that they stop flying the airplane. And this guy was an experienced military guy who had been to Kathmandu 100 times. So, damn it, it was as close to being his home base almost as any of us would have. He should have known that place like the back of his hand, you'd have thought, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. So, just that situational awareness, task saturation, confusion with a lot of things, going on the radio, and like you said, forget to, fly the airplane.
Forget your number one job.
Yeah.
It's a very demanding place to fly. I think there are special qualifications and everything else, but as you mentioned, it's not like the first time he's been here. So
no, it's at an amazing elevation. It's got high ground all around it. It's terrible, and it's a place renowned for accidents because of all those factors. But yeah, this doesn't sound like it was.
Hello.
Wait for it. There he is.
Oh, he's back. You're unfrozen.
We heard up to. It sounds like.
Oh, sorry. Did you miss that bit?
Yes.
I said it sounds just like, as Steph said, someone becoming task saturated and flying himself into the ground.
Yeah. It certainly does, Ali. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll learn more about that terrible crash later on. Moving on, this one, F, accident. SmartLynx A320 at Tallinn on February 28th, 2018. Runway excursion. SmartLynx Estonia Airbus A320-200 registration Echo Sierra Sierra Alpha November, performing training flights from Tallinn to Tallinn, Estonia. So they're just staying right there at that airport. 7 crew. I believe there were 4 students, a training captain, and I believe somebody from the Estonian, let's see, I'm trying to find that part of the article. Who else was it? A civil aviation inspector from Estonia were the crew on board. They were practicing touch and goes. And after about a dozen touch and goes, the aircraft touched down on runway 8, accelerated again, lifted off, but could not climb out, touching down again very hard with sparks and flames visible, and became airborne again. The transponder obviously failed upon the hard touchdown. The crew declared an emergency position for a landing and touchdown on runway 26. When a loud bang was heard and the aircraft veered left off the runway, leaving some parts behind on the runway, and came to a stop at position blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to give that. Let's see, 830 meters, 2,700 feet past the runway 26 threshold. 2 occupants received minor injuries. The aircraft sustained substantial damage. According to information the Aviation Herald received, the last touch and go went wrong, with the aircraft hitting the runway a second time very hard. The aircraft had the nose gear rotated by 90 degrees and sustained damage to nose gear and both engines. Let's see. Apparently there's some pictures here in the article from the Aviation Herald showing the damage to the airplane, and significant damage to the main landing gear, nose gear. Looks like the rat deployed, probably not intentionally.
Oh my God!
There's a big gash in the. I mean, they hit down so hard that apparently the engine cowlings hit the runway.
Wow! It's
on a
split the
320.
fuselage.
That's something, you know.
Yep. Jeez.
There was also a video that you can look at, and you can kind of see the very end and rollout of the last bit of this whole incident.
Can we stop calling it a landing? I don't think it was a landing anymore.
It was a controlled crash, I think. So there was some conversation in the comments about, you know, like the control priority of the side stick controller, and perhaps something like that was involved here, where somebody thought they had control, or maybe the training captain took control and with the override.
When you take control, you press an override button. That cuts out the other guy's stick. So if you don't, the aircraft sums the input. So if one pilot has full back and the other has full forward, it'll sum those inputs and the airplane will fly straight and level. So and if you want to take control, you've got to press that red button, and it cuts the other pilot's stick out, and then you have full authority.
Now, to be fair, this was a training flight, so perhaps the person flying the airplane at the time, you know, didn't have much experience, and, you know, came at it, set it up improperly, and perhaps the training captain was attempting to take control and prevent this from occurring, but as Captain Nick said, perhaps he didn't do it properly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we have any of that information as of yet. We just know the outcome. So
yeah,
that's pretty wrecked airplane, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it doesn't look good.
But as a lot of people would say, if you can walk away from it.
I don't know if they can use the airplane again. But,
well, so it's only a good landing, not a
good
great landing.
Not a great landing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Another sad piece of news here. It was an Emirates 777-300, and they were departing from, they were planning on departing from Entebbe, Uganda, to Dubai, United Arab Emirates. They were parked at the gate, was being prepared for boarding, when a flight attendant opened one of the aft doors for unknown reasons and fell out of the aircraft, landing on the concrete surface of the apron. The flight attendant received serious injuries and was taken to a hospital in critical condition. And I believe the update on this is that the flight attendant died from her injuries. Let's see, Uganda's Civil Aviation Authority reported an incident happened at Entebbe when a female flight attendant appeared to have opened an emergency exit and unfortunately fell off the aircraft while the aircraft was parked. One of the comments in the Aviation Herald article by Diego said the wind at the time of this, 180 at 12, while the aircraft parks with a heading of 080. 12 knots is not much of a strong wind, but it's enough to complicate things a little. When opening a 777 door, you have to push it outwards, and then the door goes forward until it locks, but you may need to let your body out of the aircraft to push the door to the correct position. If you need to close it, the door will unlock from its open position by pulling a lever, but in certain wind conditions, the weight of the door locks this lever, and you may have to reach out to push the door a little to release the lever. If you consider that to open or close the door, there is no safety restraint yet in position. The female flight attendant shoes are not the most appropriate to perform this kind of task. You get that the risk involved may be not acceptable by current safety standards. So now I don't know anything about the 777 doors. I thought they were all the kind of doors that kind of automatically, electronically moved upwards into the fuselage, but I didn't know that there were manual doors like that.
Well, I don't know because, the actual article in the Aviation Herald says that she was opening the door.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they'd be opening the door at that point.
Stumbled, or somebody else said that perhaps she...
It was intentional, but...
Well, there was some
thought about that.
Thought about
I don't
that
know
as
if we
well.
know any of the actual reasons behind why this happened, but
yeah.
Either way, more
It's
sad
just
news.
sad.
Well, yeah, I must admit, not realizing this was going to be on the news. I was chatting to this about this on the aircraft coming out, and the galley FM, which is what we call galley rumor, was that it was a suicide, and that she went out of the door with a bottle of a glass bottle of spirits held under her neck, under her head. Now, whether that's correct or not, I don't know. But
why would she do that if it was a suicide attempt? What's the point of...
Don't know.
I was almost thinking to myself, if you're trying to do something with the door and you have this bottle of spirits in your hand and you're thinking, well, what the heck am I going to do with this? I need both of my hands. I'm going to put it under my neck and really push hard to get this thing open, and all of a sudden, whoop, and falling out. I don't know. It seems to me more of an accident than a suicide.
It might well be. It might well be. So I'm just saying what the rumor
I've seen that
that's going around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a hell of a long way down, and it wouldn't be the first time that someone's been severely injured or killed doing exactly that.
Sadly not. And finally, this last item in the news folder. I do apologize for all the news this week, but heck,
it's good news week.
You decide, yeah.
Or not.
Yeah, we've had, news weeks where there was nothing. So we're going to skew it toward the emphasis on the news this week. This is an interesting one. A Nimbus, interesting name for an airline, Nimbus AN-12, an Antonov AN-12, registration Romeo Alpha 11130, performing a freight flight from Yakutsk to Krasnoyarsk. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly or not. Oh, yes, thank you. In Russia, carrying a cargo of 9,000 kilograms of gold ingots, suffered a shift of its cargo upon departure from Yakutsk, causing about 3,400 kilograms of the cargo to break through the fuselage and become distributed over the runway. The aircraft managed to climb out. Several airframe panels separated in flight and dropped into a local car park, and the aircraft diverted to Magan, about 6 nautical miles west of Yakutsk, for a safe landing. There were no injuries. I'm surprised nobody got hit by one of those gold ingots. There are several pictures here in the article if you want to check them out in the show notes, and you can see the runway is just scattered with all the... Yeah, littered there. That's the best word. With gold. Littered with gold.
Salvage rights. I claim salvage rights.
Yeah, exactly.
So this airplane, it's not a brand new airplane. Looks kind of old, and it's a high wing turboprop. And someone made a comment in the article here. It's real fortunate that the structure was unable to hold that displaced cargo. Otherwise, it could easily have resulted in a way too aft CG and crash. So I kind of agree with him. I mean, it's bad that it kind of made a hole in the airplane and all fell out, but if this is, a shift in cargo, it could have gone the route of that national 747 off of Bagram in 2013. About April of 2013, I think, is when, or 2014. Anyway, it's been, I can't believe it's been that long already. But when they had the shift of cargo and they ended up having the AFCG and they couldn't fly out of it and crashed. So what do you think about this one?
It's a rich story. I reckon it was an attempt to steal the gold. I think it was very clever, but they just didn't.
They didn't execute properly.
Yeah, they didn't put enough. Obviously the team waiting to pick up the gold were just off the edge of the airfield. That was the place they were supposed to drop it. But
in the car park, right?
Yeah, in the car park. So.
Directly into the waiting vehicle. Just like a big dump truck waiting for it.
9 tons of gold. Boom. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Dear.
Very interesting.
I love
story.
the picture of the two guys sticking their head up through the hole with the fuse. But it just goes to show this airplane. I mean, it may have had a corroded bottom to the cargo hold, but it just goes to show how the rest of the airplane was pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as that commenter said, it's kind of fortunate, I guess, in this case, that it did actually break through those panels and drop out.
I wonder how much 9 tons of solid gold, pure gold, is worth.
Well, it says here, plane loses its $368 million cargo of gold, platinum, and diamonds. Wow. They really don't say anything about the diamonds. I would imagine that would have been difficult to find all those.
In the snow and everything else.
Yeah. I wonder if they x-rayed the captain.
What are you hiding?
All right. Well, with that's the end of our news segment. A long one today. That's
what she said.
And let's move on to the best part of the show, which, of course, is your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Okie doke. Do we need to take a quick break for
yes.
refreshment and
for,
relief?
Physiologic purposes.
Yes.
Please.
I was thinking the same thing. So,
okay, good.
Everybody amuse yourselves in the chat room. Yeah, entertain yourselves. Maybe Dana can come on and entertain us.
I think Dana's disappeared.
He's gone.
Too many Bloody Marys.
All right. Well, I guess Dana wasn't entertaining you. Sorry.
I'm back.
Me too.
I need to get some money from this hotel for fixing this room for them. So
what did you do to fix it?
I've reconnected the handle on the toilet so it now flushes. I sorted out the curtains for them and hooked them back up. What else was it? There was I got the TV hand controller working by taking the batteries out and reinserting them. And there was something else I'll do as well. Well, a useless hotel.
Are you on the at the Holiday Inn on Van Ness?
No, this is called Park 55.
Huh.
I think it's a Hilton affiliate.
Okay. And you said you're near Union Square?
Apparently, I don't know. First time here, and I got here in the dark.
You have no idea.
I have no idea where I am.
Well, I guess you'll find out after the show.
I shall. Oh, there's a bit of sunshine out there now, so it's looking okay.
Good.
The chairs are kind of weird. They're a pair of armchairs, which if you sat in and want to put your let me turn my camera back on, put your arms on the armrests, you'd be like this. Literally, I mean, it's like a 3-sided box. And the armrests are the height of the back of the chair. So you go, what?
I feel like a little kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, I must plug my phone in while I'm thinking about this.
All right. Coming up, the first item in the feedback is from Ivor. Is Ivor with us in the chat room today?
I don't know.
The last 2 or 3 shows, he was.
He's been there. And now
Yeah,
we have his feedback and he's not.
Feedback finally. Oh, well.
Dang it, Ivor.
Josine, it
By the
just
way,
really
where did Dan go?
depends.
Hasn't he fallen off the planet?
A lot of times they'll give us like adjacent rooms or maybe rooms opposite the hallway. And then sometimes we're on completely different floors. So yeah, I guess it just depends upon the hotel. There's no requirement, at least at Acme, there's no requirement that we all be, situated right next to each other.
They don't make you share bunk beds or anything.
Not in the last 29 years.
That's good.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I used to share bunk beds on the aircraft. When we had a 4-man crew, our crew rest is a pair of bunk beds. And, 2 of you have to go on break at the same time. So it used to be a little bit of a bun fight to see who got the bottom bunk because of the curvature of the fuselage, the top bunk is shorter than the bottom bunk. So I'm big boy. I need to go in the bottom bunk. And what's more, hot air rises too.
Oh no. and other gases. I guess that requires this. All right. I guess we can start the feedback if you'd like. Okay, starting with Ivor. We've held this piece of feedback for quite some time, and we're finally going to get to it. And I see that Ivor is in the chat room. That's great. Okay, let's start off by reading this. Dear Captain Jeff and Captain Nick. Oh, it's only addressed to the 2 captains here. I must raise the subject.
I'll leave. Oh,
no, you need to stay because
I'm sorry.
You're going to be addressed here. I must raise the subject of loyalty within the APG crew. I would normally use the good offices of HR for this matter, but I fear that the normally blameless HR department may have transgressed aviation protocol. I must also bring similar claims against the BBQ King, the Barbecue King. May I check that this is still a mainly aviation show, with the odd mention of beer and food, all perfectly fine and normal, but 2 of our key members seem to be having some sort of transportation conflict. Who was it that gave the okay to Dr. Steph to go on a boating holiday? This is very disappointing, to say the least. What's wrong with airplanes? What's worse is that the boat is not just a poor means of transportation, but it turns out to be the main holiday also. Good heavens, what's the world coming to? But worse is to come. Another host, who we shall just call Dana, is not only holidaying on these floating contraptions, more than once, I believe, but calm yourself, Ivor, is buying one of the evil devices. This is surely...
Purchased.
Don't call me Shirley. A step too far. Back on the subject of Admiral Plummer. Does she not live by a body of water? The plot thickens. I will leave space here for you to admonish the secret sailors in our midst. Okay, so I'm admonishing the 2 of you. Your activities on this form of transportation is just unacceptable. So,
I watched them float planes from the deck.
No, unless it's an aircraft carrier, you're not allowed to play on a boat.
All right, so this is what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to ride my motorcycle to the airport, get in my float plane, fly to the lake, land on the lake, and then get on my boat. Does that work?
I don't know. You have to ask Ivor.
Yeah,
I hope that works, Ivor.
He's still pretty upset about this. Anyway, so he goes on. You know what? I think that he is just kidding. Anyway, can I thank Captain Jeff for a lovely day out? Let's see. Anyway, can I thank Captain Jeff for a lovely day out Mrs. Ivor and I had on our recent holiday? We visit Los Angeles very regularly, but had never considered going to Catalina Island before. But you said how much you enjoyed it in your younger, more carefree days. So we took your advice and took ourselves to the lovely Catalina. And you were so right, so much so that we went a second time. The first day was slightly blighted by the presence of a large cruise ship boat thing. There was another bit of unpleasantness. We had to get a boat to Catalina and back. I want you to treat this as a confession. We didn't enjoy it, and we won't do it again. Hoping you can forgive us, and we will never speak of it again. Anchors away. Ivor McDonald. Yay. Great piece of feedback, Ivor.
So, Ivor, you'll be happy to note that I don't have another boating holiday excursion planned for the rest of this year. There may be the same one again in 2019.
Yeah, but Dana can't say the same.
No, I can't.
He's going to be doing a lot of boating activity.
Well, it's going and oh, by the way, not that this is the proper form, but I'm trying to figure out a name for the boat. So if anybody has any really Boston-oriented type of names that they could suggest, that would be fantastic. But yes, I plan on being on the boat, as well as we will be having an APG meetup in Atlanta on the boat, because I can hold 16 people. So we can go out in the lake and have a very good time.
Oh, nice. So it has to do something with the tea party, I would think.
I did come up with Boston, Baustin, tea party, PAHTY.
Tea party.
But everybody said it's just too long. So the other one I came up with is wicked, because Boston is synonymous with that word wicked tuna. So it's going to be an ala tuna, and I'm a pontoon, right? So tuna, TOONAH, tuna, wicked tuna.
Oh, I like that.
I like it too. So that's
Boston
where we're
is
at.
associated with tuna. I've never heard that. Or wicked.
Wicked.
That.
What?
Have
you ever listened to anyone from Boston? Instead of the word awesome, which we get accused of as using a lot as Americans,
wicked.
People from Boston just say wicked for
wicked.
everything.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Wicked. It's very.
It's an adjective, an adverb.
I don't recall
all of the above.
I don't recall Dana using that very often.
I haven't heard it a whole lot from Dana, but every other person I know from the Boston area of New England.
They do, and you got to understand, Captain Jeff. I've been in Atlanta in September. Will be 20 years. That's long.
So the wicked has been wiped out of his vocabulary.
So it pretty much has.
Yeah.
Almost. And there's a lot of, and kind of funny because last week's Nick segment on the ATC version, that I was his backup on making the air traffic controller, and he said a Jersey accent from the 50s. So I kept on saying coffee, trying to get the Jersey accent. But it was funny because when I was recording it, it almost came out like I was a Southerner. And I was like, that's just not right.
What kind of accent?
It was a Southern accent. I was like, wait a minute, I'm from Boston.
That's funny. I'll be in Boston next month, so I'll get some recording of natives if I happen to hear any wicked usage.
Well, Ivor has a wicked name suggestion. HMS Wow.
There you go.
Anyway,
I don't think Her Majesty wants that ship. Thank you.
Liz said USS Wow.
Yes. The USS Wow. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on here. Let's see. Got some feedback from Dr. Bo Abrahamson. I believe he's with us in the chat room today as well.
He is or was.
Okay. Excellent. So he sent us some audio feedback, and we're going to play it now.
Hello, APG crew, captains, doctors. This is the middle-aged curmudgeon in Denmark, Dr. Bo Abrahamson. Long-time listener, I think, couple of years. This is my first feedback outside Twitter and the chat room. I'm a non-pilot. I've been in the back of a lot of aircraft. My local airline, SAS, the Who Dares Wins airline, have in the app calculated I've been around the world 7.3 times on their flights, and I've been on other aircraft as well. And one thing that's never happened to me is any medical emergencies. So I'm always trying to stay dead sober and focused in case somebody needs a doctor, which never really has happened. And actually, my question is, do you not think it would be helpful for airlines to make a list of what equipment is available for doctors on their flights? Because I'm sure that's very different. And as you know, it always helps to be prepared if you know what sort of kit is going to be available, rather than having to make decisions on the fly. So I'm really surprised that the airlines don't engage more with the medical profession to make sure that we know what's where and what's available. I think Lufthansa have some sort of scheme where doctors can sign up and then they'll be known to air crews as being physicians, and that there might be some benefits as well. I'm not quite sure what the incentives are, but perhaps in that case you get some information about what medical equipment would be available in an emergency. Anyway, I'm hugely enjoying your podcasts, and always makes my drive to and from work a lot more enjoyable. And thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bo, for your contribution of feedback, and also on your recurring contributions via the Coffee Fund. So we do appreciate that. Now, it was like a couple of days. A couple of days. I'll cut all this out. Hopefully, I'll remember to do this.
Nah, it'll be here.
Yeah.
Looking forward to listening to it.
A couple of days, or maybe the day before you sent this audio feedback, Liz put this piece of feedback in our feedback folder. And the title of the article is from the cbc.ca. Is there a doctor on board? And it is an article talking about an article just published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal, which has the rundown on what and who is available in the cabin. And we'll include this article. I'm not going to read it in the show notes.
There's actually a great YouTube video that goes along with it that shows
I was just going to say,
visually what they have in their medical kits. I think it was for Air Canada. So
funny you should mention that, Dr. Steph. This is actually supposed to go with this article, and I'm going to play a little bit of that audio for us.
Hi, my name is Alan Ackery, and I'm an emergency physician at St. Michael's Hospital.
And my name is David Kadama, and I'm an emergency medicine resident at the University of Toronto.
Today we're going to be talking to you about an article that was published in the CMAJ in regards to in-flight medical emergencies.
To supplement that article, today we'll be providing you with a detailed tour of Air Canada's medical kit, which will be provided to you in response to an in-flight medical emergency.
We hope that this video will provide you some information and tools the next time that you are called upon in an in-flight emergency.
So there you have it. There's a little bit, just a little snippet of the very first part of the video. And wow, talking about coincidence, Dr. Bo asking about, or, not complaining, but saying, why is it that we don't know what's in these things, and, all the protocols involved. And I've been holding this feedback until Dr. Steph was able to join us, because I know that Dr. Steph has had an experience or two regarding, medical emergencies on airplanes.
Unfortunately, just one, and fortunately on the ground. I talked about that a ways back. I think that was back in, what was it, October of last year that happened? I'm trying to remember. And, I'm not going to get into naming which airline it was or anything, but a couple things, just groundwork. I have actually, just in talking on this podcast and other podcasts about medical stuff, made myself familiar with what the FAA advertises as should be on medical kits on aircraft in the United States. So Part 121 flights with at least one flight attendant are required to have this medical kit, emergency medical kit, and an AED, which is the automated external defibrillator. and it has to be there. It's on the minimum equipment list. So, I'm not going to read through everything that it has in it because I've done that before. But basically, it has or is supposed to have most of the minimum medications that you would use for common emergencies, including cardiac arrest, allergic reactions, respiratory problems. So all kinds of common but serious life-threatening events. There should be equipment and medications to help manage those things. And you can find that even just by doing a Google search for, because the FAA publishes it. And what it doesn't specify though is how those things have to be arranged or organized. I think they pretty much just leave it up to every airline to put together their own kit. And for the medical emergency that I was involved in, I actually took the role first of, doing the actual CPR and chest compression. So I wasn't the one that opened the kit to begin with. And by the time I was had swapped out and was looking at it, it had become very disorganized and disorderly, and trying to find things within it was very difficult to do, especially in a tight, cramped situation. And people had pulled things out. The first two things on the content list from the FAA are the blood pressure cuff and stethoscope. I never saw those in the kit. I don't know if someone just pulled them out and checked them aside or where they went to, but it was pretty disorganized. I did like the video, the one that you were just playing, the YouTube clip from Air Canada. Their kit, very organized. You open it up and everything has a place that it kind of snaps into. So it's not just like free floating stuff in a bag. It was very easy to see where everything was. And they had multiple, above and beyond what the basic requirements, at least here in the US, are in terms of amounts of medications, and not really taking up a whole lot of space either. So very interesting to see that difference. What else was I going to say about this? But I agree with Dr. Bo. I think it would be a very good idea to have more. I think standardization would be a good thing. I think that's hard to do across multiple countries, but for at least whatever country you're in, whatever they've decided they're having as their minimum requirements or more than minimum requirements, put together a kit that's standard across, different airlines, different fleets. Make it easy for the people who are responding to know what's in there, and then provide some sort of basic education, maybe at least to people who are first responders or emergency room physicians. I was pretty fortunate that in the situation I was involved in, I was sitting next to a doctor who was an emergency room doctor, because in my daily line of work, I'm not dealing with a whole lot of emergencies like this. I have the training for it, but he's the one who's really doing that every day. So we, pretty quick came up with decided what our roles in that team were going to be. He was going to be leading all of that because he had more of the recent familiarity with it. So it just was very lucky in that situation. But yeah, I think knowing what's on board and having that information widely available for people who might be called upon as first responders would be a very good thing.
Excellent. I'm glad that we had a doctor here to discuss this. And thanks again, Dr. Bo, for sending in your audio feedback with a question and commentary, and also Liz for sending in the feedback regarding this article that was published in the Canadian, what was it again? The Canadian Medical Association Journal. Again, the article and the link to the video will be in the show notes for episode 315. And sticking with medical theme, Hamish T. Haggis. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Hamish T. Haggis? I think also known as Robert Fairburn.
I think it's Hamish.
Hamish.
Hamish the Haggis, I would guess.
Hamish T. Haggis.
Or Hamish T. Haggis, yes.
Hamish T. Haggis. I'll get it right eventually. He says, I'm slightly behind with the podcast, listening to 310 right now, and just came across Ian's feedback regarding getting a medical certificate with type 1 diabetes. While I can't speak to that condition specifically, I have mentioned previously that there is a doctor and AME in the Midwest who specializes in helping people to understand their likelihood of achieving certification and how to do so. My experience has been that some AMEs are better than others at being upfront with people about the realities of their condition. This is important because if your application is a challenging one, it is essential to have all your research and paperwork done before applying. The FAA tends to respond with a request for more info, which must be answered within 30 days. Having the research and paperwork done ahead of time allows you to respond quickly, avoiding a denial of your application, which is exceedingly hard to supersede later. The AME I refer to is Dr. Bruce Chien, or Sheen, Chien, and he is reachable at aeromedicaldoc@comcast.net or his website at aeromedicaldoc.com. That's AEROMEDICALDOC.com. If you would pass this along to Ian and anyone else who may be facing a difficult medical application, I would appreciate it, and I hope it helps. Again, that was from Hamish T. Haggis, Robert Fairburn, and Steph. What do you have any comments about this kind of thing?
My only comment that I want to make is that there's a wide, at least here in the U.S., AMEs, or medical examiners, are, they go through training that is put forth by the FAA, but they're coming from a wide variety of backgrounds in terms of their own personal medical practice and training. Some AMEs are doing that full time. Quite a few are family practice doctors, internal medicine doctors, general practitioners who may see a couple, anywhere from a couple aviation medical examinations a day to one a month or less frequently. So it kind of gets back to that kind of recency of experience that I was talking about. So even though they have the training for it, if you're doing it every day all the time, you're going to come across a lot more of these unusual situations as opposed to someone who's just doing a couple here and there or less frequently and may not have all the detailed information right at hand, even though they have access to that information. But certainly the folks who are doing AME or aviation medical examinations, either as their main job or even with a specific focus in dealing with more difficult situations, are going to know how to navigate that system a lot more easily than some others. So there is a difference in aviation medical examinations out there, just like there's differences in any professional that you're going to go see. Everyone's got different interests and backgrounds. So just keep that in mind. And at least here in the US, you are free to choose who you see for your aviation medical examiner. And you may want to do some research in advance, especially if you know you have a difficult, potentially difficult case going into it. So,
yeah, that could make all the difference in the world, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Robert, for your feedback regarding that advice for
Ian.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Liz sent this in a while back. The International Space Station is getting its first form of artificial intelligence. Hang on here. Let me play this.
Nick's lawnmower has escaped again.
That's someone hoovering the Starship Enterprise, I guess.
Yes, that's the cleanup crew after hours. Nice. They have a flying intelligent drone named Simone. I would imagine that's the way you pronounce that, CIMON, which stands for Crew Interactive Mobile Companion. The droid is a medical ball-sized device and weighs about 5 kilograms. It will be joining the crew at the ISS as a companion to a European astronaut, the German geophysicist Alexander Gerst, later this year. The flying drone is eerily similar to other space-based intelligent companions like Holly from the TV show Red Dwarf. Simone has a digital face and voice and is set to assist Gerst on different tasks during his time at the ISS. Designed by Airbus and fitted with IBM's AI Watson, it will be helping the astronauts with experiments on the space station. For instance, Simone will partake in a complex medical experiment where he will act as an intelligent flying camera. As well, Gerst and Simone will be carrying out an experiment with crystals, an attempt to solve the Rubik magic cube based on videos. The developers hope that Simone will be an interactive assistant to the astronauts and help reduce their stress as well as improve efficiency. In addition, Simone should help enhance safety on the ISS, as the drone can serve as an early warning system in case of any technical problems.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
So nothing could go wrong with this artificial intelligence drone.
And nothing ever does go wrong with these artificial intelligence devices.
Never.
Did you, this is a little bit of a sidetrack here, but did you hear about the Amazon Echo Alexa that had kind of a glitch where it was laughing creepily, unprompted?
Oh, the creepy laugh, yes.
The creepy laugh.
I listened to that in Twit. It was very good.
You know, reading out, unprompted, reading out a list of local funeral homes. Yeah. The guy who that happened to said, he goes, it's in the trash and it's never coming back out.
But you know what? They were some of these tech shows that Captain Nick was alluding to.
Yeah.
They said, you know, actually it was probably something that it interpreted somebody saying. I mean, occasionally we'll be doing the show and I'll say something that my iPhone thinks I'm saying, hey Siri, or Siri, or whatever. Oh, yeah, it just popped up.
Hey
Siri. Oh, did you accidentally summon me? It says. Yes, I did.
Yes.
You know, what's amazing is think about the movie Terminator a long time ago, you know, how it predicted before any of this stuff was available. I mean, really before we even had cell phones, the first Terminator came out and predicted artificial intelligence. Now we're kind of here now, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah, but I like what they said on this technical podcast that Jess alluding to, that they are actually so stupid that it's going to take an awful long time before they ever get to the point where they can take over the world.
Did you see? I was watching
That's
some
what
show where they
want you to
had.
think, Nick. That's what they want you to think.
I think there was like a show where they put like an Alexa or a whatever they call it, and a Google Home device, a couple of these from different companies, and they started talking to each other. And it was just nonsensical. It didn't make any sense at all. You know,
It's like when you you go on your phone and you just hit the predictive text and you start with one word and then you just keep hitting the center one to come up to see if you can make a whole sentence, and it makes no sense sometimes. That's what I imagine happens if you put a bunch of those together. So
that's what Steph is doing when she's supposedly doing injections.
There you go.
That's why she giggles occasionally. That's funny. Oh, anyway, so thanks, Liz, for the information on the drone in the ISS. Matt writes, number 5. Hello to Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Captain in Training Dana, and Dr. Steph. Love the podcast. Let's get into it. Being a kid of the mid-'80s, 90s, I grew up in what I believe was the last of the real jet age, and I was fortunate to witness many classic airliners on a regular basis being overhead every day. I'm only 34, but I feel as of late I'm getting nostalgic for the variety of airliners that I got to see as a kid. Having 2 young children myself now, it seems as though the aircraft and liveries are lacking the variety I was fortunate to see as a kid. For myself, growing up in the Minneapolis area and a son of a current pilot at Acme Regional, it was always seeing the Northwest Orient paint or the bright red Northwest Airlink turboprops fly overhead. I also enjoyed seeing at the time the rare Acme colors of the 80s and early 90s flying overhead. Nowadays, it's all Acme all the time at Mike Sierra Papa, or Minneapolis St. Paul, as we like to say.
We'll not worry about that little stroke that you just had there.
Yeah, those minor little, what do they call those little strokes?
TIA.
Yeah, that little TIA there. Nowadays, it's all Acme all the time at Kilo Mike Sierra Papa, or so it seems. My question is pretty simple, and I don't believe it would divulge too much info about Acme Airlines. The question is for all of you. For Captain Jeff and Captain in Training Dana, what era is your favorite paint scheme on the Acme aircraft? For Captain Nick, same question. However, I don't believe Acme Red has had many livery changes to its fleet over the years. And finally, for Dr. Steph, since you don't fly for an airline, what is your favorite livery currently on an airliner or while growing up? So, Dana, are you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm
what
here.
About you?
Yeah.
What was your favorite paint scheme on the Acmes?
The Acme, the classic widget that they had in the mid '80s, that by far is my favorite, and especially the way it looked on the L10 and the 7.2. It was just a beautiful paint scheme. My least favorite was the flying bag. I call it the flying through the supermarket bag, which is the vegetable bags. They had that wavy, really funky paint scheme. So just
and they had like the Acme in lowercase letters instead of uppercase.
Yes, it was just weird. So and I have a T-shirt that actually has that on it. I just don't want to wear it on air.
Oh, that's okay. This is an airline that's very similar to Acme Airlines. In fact, the paint scheme of Delta looked a lot like our Acme paint scheme. Is this the one to which you're referring?
I am absolutely. I'm actually having heart flutters because I love that so much. That's just such a sexy beast right there.
Yeah.
And the folks that are not seeing this because they're listening to the podcast, you can look up the L1011 in the classic scheme and to see it yourself.
I like the retro. When I see some of these, not all are retro, but many of them are the ones where they used to paint a stripe along where the window line was, as I was just showing with this postcard that I was showing on the video. I kind of like that. Now it seems like most airlines have gotten away from that and simplified things a bit. In fact, some airlines look almost like the same livery, but different carriers, and not so sure that that's a great idea. I think that's what Matt is alluding to, that they're all looking the same. But anyway, Nick, how about Acme Red?
Well, over the pond, we see a huge variety in colors, and some of them are, brilliant. Some of them are way out. I mean, you've got to look at WOW. Norwegian have a very odd paint scheme, but it's very individualistic, where the whole sort of nose area of the aircraft painted bright red. It's a bit like having a big boil on the end of your finger. Or worse. I was just thinking of another appendage, but perhaps I shouldn't.
Did you say wow?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. That was good.
And Siri on that one.
Exactly. So, I mean, you see him coming in and out of Heathrow, and they look great. Some of them. The old-fashioned BA1 doesn't really impress me at all. I quite liked it when they were a little bit more formal, and they had almost like a crown and a little crest on their aircraft. So that was kind of neat.
Nick, it's your paint scheme on your.
Yeah. I'm just commenting on the era. So I quite like the era. When it comes to Acme Red, well, we've had 4 or 5 different schemes, probably more than that. So. But they've all basically had the big Acme Red signature on the tail. So that bit hasn't changed. But my favorite by far is the current one, which has metallized white, so it's glitter. And it has that amazing lipstick red, which is like lip gloss. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So when you see one of those, it's unmistakable. I love it.
And I love the pinup girls that you have with the name of the particular airplane.
The company's always been very good about matching registrations with the name of the aircraft, and it's always something that's a bit fun or a bit cheeky, which I always think. And I actually quite liked their old habit of putting when the aircraft was airborne. So, in other words, emphasizing the fact that it's a very new fleet. So they put the date there and perhaps where it came from or something. They've always got some good ideas.
Yeah.
Do they not do that anymore because the fleet isn't as new as it once was? They don't want to draw attention in the other direction.
I think they're a bit worried that all these new bin liners, which are brand new, are sitting out there parked up And so we're going, well, actually, it's not a great advertisement for brand new airplanes, but there you go. No, I think it's just one of those things they phase in, phase out.
So
you hear a lot of people say, if it ain't Boeing, it ain't going. Well, pretty much that's the way it is nowadays. If it's Boeing, you're not going.
Well, on some of them, I think we're suffering particularly badly with our choice of versions of Boeing's and the engines we've got. But we needed those particular types of engines to get out of the hot, high airports that we needed to operate that aircraft. And it hasn't worked for us at the moment. They'll eventually sort it out, but it's going to take quite some time. And there are other airlines that have got engines that aren't quite as highly tuned that are now moving into the same problem area that we have been suffering. But it's not just, unfortunately, just the engines. There are a series of other significant problems with the binliner that we have been suffering through. And hopefully, they'll eventually come out the other end with a reasonable standard of serviceability, something that hasn't been very good up to now.
Steph, your favorite?
So
liver?
interesting question, because I've never really thought about it before. I don't know that I've ever really looked at one airline versus another and been like, ooh, I really like their livery. I don't like theirs.
How about the bright yellow Spirit?
Well, so there are certainly some that I think are more pleasing to the eye than others, but I've never really given it a whole lot of consideration in the past. I will say that when airlines, go from having one particular design for a very long time and then they change it, I tend to not like it initially, and then it kind of grows on you after a while, and you go, oh no, that actually is nicer and more modern and up to date and good change overall. Mm-hmm. I've always liked the Southwest liveries where they do the states, because they have a whole bunch of planes that are painted for different state flags and state designs. I always thought that was kind of neat. But growing up, I don't know that I ever really paid a whole lot of attention to it. I'd say that I probably flew on Southwest more than any other airline when I was younger. And that was back in the days when those planes they called them their ugly brown planes because they were not painted a very flattering color, but they would admit to that quite readily.
Yeah.
I always say something like, thanks for
Today's
flying our ugly brown plane today.
Today's version is much more
much
attractive.
nicer. Yes.
Yeah.
I do like the Canyon Blue, I think is the exact name of the blue color for the livery. So, but anyway.
I was thinking about the Northwest Airlines, one of their paint schemes looked like, we used to call them the flying bowling shoe.
Because it was like red and blue.
Yeah, this looked like a bowling shoe.
Yeah.
Like, you go to the bowling alley and wear your bowling shoes.
I will say I do like ANA's Star Wars themed aircraft.
Which one?
ANA, don't they have the R2-D2?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of fun. I like when airlines do fun.
And they had Pokemon, and they've had other schemes that have gone through. Some of the great New Zealand have had some great great schemes as well.
I happen to love the Frontier tail paint scheme because everyone has a different animal on it, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
And did you know that
detail.
if you fly with them, you can request from the flight attendant a collector card, so you can collect all of the different animals.
Never been on. Didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. I really like what American, and I guess maybe US Air did it before they merged with American, but the retro paint jobs. And so you see the Piedmont.
Yep. They still have those. Yep.
Yeah.
I see them occasionally at Charlotte, especially Piedmont and PSA. And
JetBlue has an airplane painted as the Red Sox. That's my favorite, actually.
And they also named their airplanes too. All their airplanes have something blue in the title of going back to talking about aircraft with names. So.
Well, very good, very good. Thank you, Matt, for your question regarding aircraft liveries. And I think now it's about time for our segment or our installment of the Old Pilot's Plane Tales.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. Lady Lex and Scoop's Wildcat. The Lady Lex started life as a battle cruiser, but during her construction she fell foul of the 1922 Washington Naval Treaty, which limited the construction of all new battleships and battle cruisers. Her design was changed. She was converted into one of the U.S. Navy's first aircraft carriers. She and her sister, the Saratoga, entered service in 1928 and were assigned to the Pacific Fleet. The Lexington was at sea when America entered the war, following the duplicitous Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December 1941, an attack that she herself had successfully staged more than once before during exercises to test Pearl Harbor's defenses. The Lexington was sent to the Coral Sea to block any Japanese advances into the area, but she was spotted and attacked by bombers, most of which were successfully shot down in defense of the carrier. During this period, she attacked and sank shipping off Papua New Guinea before defending the Australian town of Port Moresby from Japanese invasion forces, seriously damaging the light aircraft carrier Shoho, which was then sunk by aircraft from Yorktown. After his attack, Lieutenant Commander Robert Dixon, commander of VS-2, radioed his famous message to the American carriers, "Scratch one flat top." Then, during the Battle of the Coral Sea, whilst in running engagements with the Japanese carriers Shokak and Zikak, the Lexington was spotted and attacked by torpedo bombers. Although 3 were shot down, 11 enemy aircraft survived long enough to hit the Lexington twice on the port side. The shock jammed both elevators in the up position and caused leaks from the portside avgas tanks. Her port fire rooms were also flooded, which meant the boilers there had to be shut down, reducing her speed to around 25 knots and giving her a 6-degree list. Shortly after, she suffered another attack, this time by 19 bombers, and she was hit by 2 bombs. The first struck an ammunition locker, killing a gun crew and starting several fires. The second struck the funnel, but the carrier was still operational and continued to launch and recover aircraft. Fuel was pumped to the starboard side to correct the list, but then a massive explosion occurred deep within the vessel. Sparks had ignited the leaking portside fuel tanks. 25 crew members were killed and the main damage control center disabled. Despite the damage, the Lexington continued to launch aircraft, although it could no longer refuel landing fighters. 90 minutes later, a second explosion rocked the Lexington, which blew the forward elevator a foot above the level of the flight deck, and although the ship's company bravely fought the fires, a third explosion knocked out water pressure in the hangar, and eventually all the compartments below the waterline had to be evacuated. The carrier drifted to a halt, and evacuation of the wounded commenced. An hour later, another series of explosions blew pieces off the ship and aircraft into the air, and Sherman, the officer commanding, ordered abandon ship. He remained on board for a further 30 minutes to ensure that all were off the ship before leaving himself. 2,770 officers and men were successfully rescued, and then the destroyer Phelps was ordered to sink the crippled carrier. A few minutes before 8 p.m., she slipped below the waves. An officer said, "There she goes. She didn't turn over. She's going down with her head up. Dear old Lex, a lady to the last." 216 crew members had died in her defense. Lexington received 2 battle stars for her World War II service. She was officially struck from the Naval Register on the 24th of June, 1942. Lady Lex lay undisturbed on the seabed for some 76 years, until very recently she was rediscovered by the research vessel Petrel, which is funded by the Microsoft billionaire Paul Allen. Using state-of-the-art subsea equipment, the Petrel was able to photograph the Lexington, which is 3,000 meters, around 2 miles, below the surface. The photographs show the ship, but more importantly to us aviators, some of its aircraft, in remarkably good condition, particularly a single Grumman F4F Wildcat. Clearly visible on the side are the markings for the squadron VF3, 4 Japanese kills, and a successful bomb strike. Although it's early days, it looks like this aircraft, although designated to Lieutenant Noel Gaylor, was last flown on the day the carrier sank by a remarkable Navy pilot, Scoop Voss. Albert Ogden Voss Jr. came into this world on the 9th of August 1914 and called Philadelphia his home. Although his father worked as a forester, he sent his eldest son to the prestigious prep school, Phillips Academy, Andover, where he excelled and was on the wrestling, swimming, and track teams. From there he went to the U.S. Naval Academy, where he also played football. Obviously a man destined to join the ranks of the Sky Gods, in 1940, Voss was detached from his first ship, the Astoria, to attend Naval Air Base Pensacola for flight training, the same year as his wife gave birth to their son. His first detachment was to the aircraft carrier Saratoga, where he joined VF-3 Fighter Squadron in early 41. Here he mixed with high-caliber naval pilots and officers, such as their CO, Jimmy Thatch, who developed the Thatch weave tactic. This involved units of aircraft weaving across each other regularly to lure an enemy into focusing on one element, allowing the other to cross behind and attack the pursuer. Thatch knew that the F-4 Wildcat could be outclimbed and outturned by the Japanese Mitsubishi Zero and devised the tactic to give the Wildcat a chance. Initially, it confounded the Zero pilots, and American pilots even used it during the Vietnamese War. VF-3 had an imposing pedigree and was the very first carrier-trained unit, then called VF-2, and among the first in the Navy to also employ dive-bombing tactics. Scoop Voss joined as a section leader, and although his stint with VF-3 was a short one, he saw combat and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. It was the 20th of February 1942, and some Japanese flying boats were shadowing the carrier. Thatch's 1st Division got airborne and shot down some of the snoopers, but they had passed on the carrier's position. Voss was part of the 2nd Division, which was subsequently launched but saw nothing, and were on their way back to the carrier as Division 3 got airborne. The 3rd Division saw and engaged the Japanese 4th Koktai, and Voss was turned back to assist. He arrived in time to harry the disorganized bombers, and according to the citation for his DFC, for heroic conduct in aerial combat, when on February 20th, 1942, in enemy waters, he made vigorous and determined attacks in the face of combined enemy machine gun and cannon fire against a formation of heavy bombers, and he, with the assistance of his teammate, caused the destruction of one enemy bomber. On the 11th of January 1942, the Saratoga was torpedoed and forced to return to Pearl Harbor for repairs. The Navy knew that trouble was brewing in the Coral Sea, and the Lexington was in need of experienced pilots, so Scoop Voss was loaned to VF-2 aboard the Lady Lex. The Battle of the Coral Sea didn't start particularly well for Voss when he lost track of some Douglas Devastators he was supposed to be escorting, and on returning to the Lexington, he saw through a break in the cloud that flak was filling the sky. Spotting an Alchi D-3A Val dive bomber making a run on the Yorktown, he attacked, shooting off its wing. Even with this result, the bomb only just missed the Yorktown. It was during the action that eventually sank the Lexington that Scoop Vorse was awarded a Gold Star in lieu of the Second Distinguished Flying Cross. His citation reads, "For heroism and extraordinary achievement in aerial combat in the Battle of the Coral Sea on May the 8th, and again in the Solomon Islands campaign on August the 8th, the 22nd, 24th, 1943. In addition to shooting down 2 hostile dive bombers in the earlier action, Lieutenant Vorse persistently leading his section in bold assaults against enemy aircraft over the Solomon Islands, pressed home his attacks with such relentless fighting spirit and aggressive courage that he shot down 1 Japanese dive bomber, 1 Zero fighter, and 1 4-engine patrol plane. Having had his ship sunk from beneath him, Vorse was moved to Pearl Harbor as the XO of a training unit, but eager to get back to sea, he jumped at the chance to join VF-6 on board USS Enterprise. The carrier was part of Task Force 61, bound for Guadalcanal. This was to be a true test for the Navy pilots, as veteran air aces from the Japanese 5th Air Attack Force would soon be bearing down on them. It was now August 1942, and Scoop Vorse, with his fellow VF-6 pilots, were regularly being launched on air patrols. One of the pilots under his command, Frank Cash Register, recalled in his diary, "At 1100 hours our section intercepted a 4-engine Jap patrol plane. Vorse, our section leader, set it afire on his first run, so I didn't even get a shot. It went into a spin and the wings and tail came off. One man jumped out without a parachute, and I tried to catch him and shoot him, but couldn't overtake him. It didn't make any difference, though. He fell 8,000 feet. Other formal entries read, "A terrible day, August the 24th, 1942. A Japanese air attack on USS Enterprise leaves 75 men dead and nearly 100 wounded after 3 bombs explode, causing severe damage. Launched 6 VF Flight 351. Mission Combat Air Patrol. Action Summerall, Vorse, and Losh shoot down 1 Zero each. Register shot down 1 Zero and 1 Me-109. Vorse landed in the water near Saratoga and was picked up by a destroyer." Fighting Squadron 80 was established on the 1st of February 1944. Assigned to command the new unit was Lieutenant Commander Albert O. Vorse, Jr. On the 16th of October 1944, Vorse was moved up to Air Group Commander. In the fighter squadron's first combat action of the 5th of November 1944, targets were airfields and ground installations northeast of Manila. Vorse's Vipers were credited with shooting down 4 Japanese Oscars, with Scoop Vorse claiming one of the 4. For the next 4 months, Vorse's Vipers would wreak havoc on the Japanese Navy. Operation Sweep Easy, led by Lieutenant Commander Vorse, was launched on the 14th of December. Enemy airfields at Laog were thoroughly strafed, resulting in the destruction of at least 9 enemy and damage to many others. As the attack concluded, Vorse saw 3 Oscars below him, followed by 3 more, and then 2 Tonys. The official citation reads, "For meritorious achievement as leader of a group of 20 fighter planes in action against enemy Japanese forces over the Philippine Islands on November the 5th, 1944, he is awarded the Air Medal." The citation further states, "Although 5 of his guns jammed whilst leading an attack against enemy aircraft, he succeeded in shooting down 1 hostile fighter. Continuing to press home a vigorous attack, he damaged another airborne aircraft and destroyed 2 planes on the ground." The target for the 15th of January was again Formosa, and flying conditions were extremely poor. While making a low-level attack on a destroyer, Scoop lost 7 feet of his wing to anti-aircraft gunfire. The impact blew his F4F onto its back at 200 feet, struggling to hold the Hellcat upright at just 50 feet above the surface. Borst made it back to the task group by holding the stick all the way over with both hands. After making a 160-knot water landing, he was once again picked up by a destroyer with nothing more than a few bumps and bruises. The enemy destroyer he was attacking had been sunk, as well as 2 other ships. This time he received the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism in action against enemy Japanese forces in the vicinity of Formosa, January the 15th, 1945. Skillfully leading 8 fighters and 13 bomber planes in a strike against enemy shipping, he broke through solid overcast at 2,000 feet and saw a large Terasuki-class destroyer below. Commencing his masthead attack amid extremely heavy anti-aircraft fire, he released his 1,000-pound bomb and scored a direct hit on the ship, which was seen to explode shortly afterwards. Although over 6 feet of his starboard wing was blown off by enemy fire, he completed his attack and successfully maneuvered his plane back to the task group, where he was forced to make a difficult water landing. Finally, Scoop received the Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity. In the vicinity of Tokyo, on February the 16th, 1945, leading a formation of 18 fighter planes on a sweep against enemy air forces and ground installations, he shot down 4 hostile aircraft and destroyed 2 more on the ground. His squadron finished the war with 159.5 enemy aircraft destroyed in the air and about 60 more probable destroyed or damaged. Voss's Vipers had done their job well, including the destruction of considerable enemy shipping and many aircraft and installations on the ground. What I now find amazing is that we can gaze upon a piece of history lying 2 miles below the surface of the sea that can bring the actions of this true American hero back into the light.
Seems like Scoop really liked the water.
Yes.
You could say that.
I never found out why he was called Scoop.
I think I have an idea. Because I kept having to scoop him out of the water. Right?
I thought he might have a fondness for ice cream. I don't know.
I don't know. Like just about every single thing that he did ended up him crashing in the water, I think.
Yeah. By the way, I've got to thank Van City Matt, who suggested I tackle that story. And I had just seen the very day that Matt got in touch with me, the pictures in on the London Times newspaper I get. And I was looking at the side of this Wildcat going, wow, that's incredible. You can see all the detail of the paintwork on the side of the cockpit. That's remarkable. And then I got this message and I thought, oh, that'll be a great story, perhaps. That'll be good. So thanks, Matt.
Well, you're correct. It was a great story. Thank you again for that master telling of the story. Let's see. I ended up eating a banana and some yogurt to keep my stomach from making growling noises.
That's an amazing coincidence because that's what I've been snacking on as well.
Oh, really?
Yogurt, and I'm almost finished with my banana.
The official food of the APG crew.
Saturday morning APG, yes.
Yeah. So. All right. Let's see. Where did we leave off here? Wade sent us some feedback. First time reaching out to the podcast with a message. I am still new to the show yet was already well infected with the syndrome well before hearing a single moment. I'd found the show in a search for Catholic podcast or flipping through the charts to see what were some of the top hits out there, stumbling across The Catholic Pilot, which sounded pleasant enough to try. As it turns out, I struck upon a discussion I've always longed to hear and become a part of. The rest is history. No, I'm not reveling in obscure amounts of free time to catch up on the old APG episodes, yet the old pilot's plain tales would make my time well spent, despite time investment it involves. I have the ability to get 2 to 3 shows in a week, much to the dismay of my wife, who seems to have never realized on the front end the intensity of my aviation affections. I am the grandson and son of Navy aircraft mechanics. But how apropos, right after this telling of a Navy aviator. Anyway, I'm the grandson and son of Navy aircraft mechanics, and during my youth enjoyed greatly in the shingle peeling the local FA-18 squadrons did to my parents' roof. During my final years of primary school, we relocated to nearby a major international airport, once an exiting Acme hub. Oh, I'm sorry. You are correct. The sea would make it exciting. During my final years of primary school, we relocated to a nearby major international airport, once an exciting Acme hub, and the entirely new world of commercial aircraft was opened up to me to become an extension of my lifelong fascination. I also had the opportunity to spend some time out around the former Reese Air Force Base during my college days. Not sure if Captain Jeff ever had the privilege of flying into there before being shut down. Nope, never had the privilege of flying into.
You were shot down? I didn't know that. Who shot you down?
Well, I don't want to really talk about it. You know, a little modest. You know, I got the what is it? The Distinguished Flying Cross for that one.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, well,
for being shot down, that's good.
Wait
a minute.
In which way he was being distinguished?
Yeah, maybe that's not the right. What would I get for that? Maybe the Purple Heart.
If you were wounded.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, obviously, I hit my head against something.
Of course, absolutely.
Makes so much sense.
I know. Okay. In the recent episode, you had mentioned a forthcoming discussion on color blindness, and this is the real gap between me doing what I do today and becoming a professional pilot. I'm unable to pass the color test with the color plates usually falling on short of the minimum. I'll be pressing onward and looking deeper into determining my ability to pass an alternative test based on the story shared and discussed on your show. Yeah, we hope that really works out for you, because apparently a lot of people have been able to pass doing the alternative methods. So, okay, he continues, Wade. 2 more things I found potential to add to your delightful discussion on a recent trip I had. Number 1, I was able to sit next to a couple returning home after they had flown Queensland and Northern Territories Aerial Services, Qantas, to DFW on an A380 from Sydney, and I inquired as to their seating location on the upper or lower deck, in which they replied there was only 1 level on the airplane, and after clarifying, they insisted the plane had 1 level. It would be interesting to know how many people fly on a dual-level aircraft and fail to notice. It might be a heartbreaking statistic. I do believe it would be. Wait. There are probably a lot of people that fly on the A380 and have no idea it's a double-decker.
I'm not sure how you can miss that once you actually go to board the aircraft, but
well, you'd have to be looking outside.
Surprised by what some people manage to pick up on and fail to pick up on. So,
you know, I've told my story before when at Nassau, when they had the before they had jetways, you know, we had the air stairs, and we were, you know, it was kind of a long walk between where our jet was parked and the terminal. And I'm looking outside and watching all these people walking out, and I kind of yelled to the flight attendants, "Hey, it looks like they're on their way. Well, you know, we're boarding." And then I watched these people walk by our jet and start getting on a Continental Airlines 727. And I'm thinking, oh, never mind, false alarm. I thought they were coming out for us. Well, apparently they were supposed to be coming to our jet, which was clear what airline it was on, you know, painted all over our airplane. And just like cattle, they all followed the people that were leading the line, and went into the Continental jet, and there was no crew on the Continental jet. And finally, they realized that maybe this was not the right airplane.
You're like looking around going, seems
And that
like we're missing something here.
Yep, it's a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So
Dark.
Dark.
That just cemented my opinion that people really don't care what airline it is. It's like whatever the cheapest fare is, and that's, whatever. But anyway, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, but okay. Number 2, flying on a leg from Denver to Charlotte. The crew set the cruise altitude to flight level 210 to avoid a turbulent ride. Is this more common than I realize? As in all my years, I've never flown a 3-hour journey at such a reduced altitude. Upon arrival, I would have anticipated it being a Class 3 approach, knowing weather conditions beforehand, and a full utilization of a computerized landing on the old French bump and sway, Scarebus for short. The captain flying, as the first officer, would frequently address us on the intercom to keep us informed on timing. I would have anticipated an uneventful arrival. However, the glide slope we were on is what we followed straight onto the runway, landing with no flare. I would understand if visibility were completely zero to the ground, yet we broke through around 150 to 200 feet. And I would have thought that there was something the flight deck could have done to decrease the descent rate. Was there enough time available in such a situation for a decision and action to take place if the computer was flying? Was the computer even flying, or was this just a job poorly done? Thanks. Keep up the good work, and would be happy to meet up would be happy to get a meetup happening in Little Rock next time one of the Mad Dogs stay the night. One of my mates here in town also flies the Mad Dog for Acme. I'm sure he would have an excellent time. He attached some images from his most recent outing, and again, we'll make sure that we put this in the show notes so you can see them as well. One is of a familiar airplane to the producers of the show on my way out of town. The other is of the airport where I spent many of my childhood days, having lived in the vicinity of the water tower above the British vertical stabilizer. Okay, I'm looking at the picture now. I don't know where that is.
The first one is not in the U.S., I don't think.
Yeah, it's British Airways, Qantas, Lufthansa, clearly an international array of airliners, and I don't recognize that. Do you, Nick?
No, not immediately. I have to have a closer look at it, but I can't expand the picture up quite enough to get any more detail out of it. I don't recognize that bit of the terminal.
Yeah. The second photo here, the one with a very familiar airplane, a Mad Dog, and I believe it's from Little Rock Airport. Looks familiar to me. I was just there last week, actually. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he asked the question regarding the flight level 210. Is that a common thing? And it's not very common, Wade, but occasionally we must fly at a pretty low altitude like that to avoid, moderate or worse turbulence at the higher altitudes. And what that means is we burn a lot more fuel, but of course, it's planned for that. And I've flown a couple of flights from the Northeast, New England area down to Atlanta. So, it also takes us longer because we're not, we're just flying at a lower altitude makes our true airspeed a little bit lower and ground speed a little bit lower as well. So, or is that right? Or am I getting that backwards? Maybe the lower you are, the higher the true airspeed. Anyway, I don't know.
What was the question? I'm sorry, I was distracted.
I was thinking that at a lower altitude, the true airspeed would be a little bit lower as well than at the higher altitudes.
It will be. But,
okay. But the winds would be lower as well usually. So it really depends. I guess it's a variable. Yeah,
your indicated airspeed can be higher at lower levels, which can compensate and give you a higher ground speed. So quite often if we need to get somewhere quickly, we'll be programmed in the low 30s rather than climb up to the high 30s where you start hitting your Mach limit and you have to slow off a bit for that.
Yeah. Let's see. So that happens, I'd say, on average for me, maybe once or twice a year, where we are down in the low 20s. What's interesting about it is that, especially when you're traveling from, let's say, Hartford, Connecticut to Atlanta, Georgia, at 21,000 feet, you really see a lot more on the ground. You're flying along the Appalachian Range, and it's fun for us because, even though 10,000 feet, it doesn't seem like it would make that much difference. It really does. I mean, you can see a lot more when you're down at 21 as opposed to 31 or something like that. But the other thing he asks about is the approach and landing. Oh, and also I should add that it's not always the case if you hear the captain talking on the PA that the first officer is automatically going to be the one that's flying the airplane. It might be a captain like me that, regardless of whether the first officer is flying or whether I'm flying, I still like to make the PA. So that could be the case in this situation. But I'm thinking that if it truly were a Category 3 approach and they had set it up for that, which I do occasionally, if we're not exactly sure of what the weather conditions are going to be at the airport at our arrival time, may set up for a Category 3 approach, and you may end up breaking out at about 150, 200 feet, as you mentioned in your feedback. And if you've briefed to do an auto land approach, Category 3, at that point you're kind of committed to it. You only have two choices: either auto land or go around. And so I suspect that maybe in this case, unless the airplane was doing something really funky below that 150 feet, that the crew would have just allowed the airplane to continue its auto land. But I have a feeling it may depend on the airplane, and it may depend on the airline's operating policy. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, we do the same, Jeff. If we've planned to do an auto land, unless we break out above the Cat 1 minima, we will continue to do a full auto land. If you're above the Cat 1 minima, then it's your choice. If the guy wants to take it out, then that's fine. But we really don't like him taking out the autopilot below Cat 1 because he's got very little time to acquire the visual cues, make sure everything's looking fine, take it out, get a feel for the airplane before he's straight in the flare and having to put it on the ground. And that's possibly one of the reasons why it might have been a firm landing if the guy had taken control very late. So yeah, that's our way.
And usually
sometimes it happens in good weather conditions too, where you just experience a nice firm landing.
What? No way.
No, yeah. I mean, never to any of us, right?
No.
I don't know. As a passenger riding on commercial aircraft, the two landings that I would rate the firmest both happened on clear, sunny days with no significant adverse weather, wind, anything going on. So for whatever that's worth, and I will not mention which airlines that.
Oh, go on.
One was here in Charlotte, so you can guess which airline that may have been.
Mm-hmm.
And the other was in Salt Lake City.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, it could have been either one, but I have a feeling it's one that I might be familiar with.
It is not.
Oh, okay.
So,
I just remembered a couple of weeks ago, I flew with this new guy. He was still on probation, but man, he could fly that jet. I mean, he was smooth. It was as if that guy had been flying the airplane for 4 or 5 years, and I was very, very impressed with it. And then we were coming into Atlanta and coming in for landing, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, he should be starting to flare right now. We're getting the countdown. 50, 40, 30, 20, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to flare now. 10, bam. Okay, he didn't flare. I felt so bad for him too, because he'd flown the airplane so beautifully, nice and smooth and everything else, and didn't really say, nothing really needed to be said. It was just like, ow, that was a tough one, and I really feel bad for him having to stand in the door and say goodbye to everybody. But
no, you didn't.
I did hear him getting some abuse from the passengers, and then I thought, okay, that's enough. And I got on the PA and started using humor to, I said, this is Captain Crash here, and, try to kind of take the edge off of everything, and everybody from that point on just started joking around. I said, please do make sure that you tell the first officer what you thought of his landing. And I said, he's not very happy about it, but I am, because we are having a landing contest, and I sure as heck have won it after that, so that kind of thing. And I usually do that if I slam one on. And again, it just takes the edge off, and people, instead of having this frown on their face and being upset about the whole thing, they're actually laughing about it, and it kind of breaks the ice or whatever. So he thanked me afterward. He said, "Thanks for doing that." He said, because people are really giving me a bad time. And I said, "You're welcome. I've done it several times for myself." Okay, Steve has some questions for Dana, so we're going to skip that one. We'll put that back in the staging queue for next episode, since Dana is no longer with us. That's right.
Did he die? I thought he'd just gone off with his mate.
Oh, we should probably say that because I don't think we really said that Dana had.
No, we haven't. I was just thinking to myself, you would know it if you were watching the video, because he's not there anymore. Wait a minute. That's very clever. Hang on. Put that thing back up there.
Wow.
Nick has drawn here, and then...
Wow.
Oh, he is with us. Hey, Dana. How's it going? How many drinks have you had this morning?
Oh, lots.
Wow. Yeah, Dana left us after or during or when we started playing the Plain Tales. He said he had some motorcycle riding to do. Uh-oh. If you're in the Daytona Beach area, watch out. Please be careful. Anyway, so this piece of feedback, unfortunately, if I'd known he was going to leave, I would have played this before he did, but that kind of caught me off guard. But anyway, so let's move on to the next one in the queue, which is 8. Peter says, yesterday, just outside of my apartment in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, a tourist helicopter crashed into the East River after an engine failure, killing 5 passengers on board. Looking out my kitchen window northeast up the river, I have a clear view of the LaGuardia approach path onto runway 22, and I'm often staring at that window. Fortunately, I didn't see yesterday's crash, but did watch much of the aftermath. New York City's bravest, the Coast Guard and police, did their heroic best. My hat's off to them, and sorry for the loss of life. I'm curious, when there's an accident, are commercial pilots in the area made aware? Did the flights approaching LaGuardia have to do anything different because of the crash in the river and rescue operations? Blue skies and tailwinds, Peter. Well, Peter, I can tell you, it's been a while since I've flown in LaGuardia because they're not allowing our Mad Dogs to fly in there anymore. But I think in this situation, first of all, the East River and the point where the helicopter went down is not that close to the airport, and it's kind of in that area. It's to the southwest of the airport, where it's kind of between corridors for people landing on runway 4 or taking off on 22 or landing 1331. So it really, we don't really fly over that area, so it doesn't affect it in that way. And as far as being made aware of what happened, unless we were on the same frequency, there's probably there would probably be no indication at all to us operating in and out of LaGuardia that this occurred. So no would be the answer. If I'd been flying that day, I wouldn't have known anything about it probably until I'd tuned in on the news.
Now, different story. I mean, just going back to when we talked about this in the news portion of this episode, for the frequency that this helicopter was on. So certainly those aircraft that are on that frequency can hear what's going on, and you can hear where they, requested to go and take a look or help out, and were requested to. So that's a little bit of a different story. If it's on the same frequency, then you're definitely going to know what's going on. So.
Exactly. And you'll notice that when we listened to that 5 minutes of recording, whatever, you never once heard any airline call sign. Mm-hmm. So that indicates to me that it was a different sort of frequency that was controlling that area, that low altitude sector, I guess, over there near Manhattan Island.
Yep.
All right, good question, though. Jonathan. Oh, this is an interesting one. He says, greetings, APG crew. My name is Jonathan Alexandratos. The playwright professor you met at the New York City meetup months ago. Come back. Oh, that's right. That was the one that Nick and myself were present. And,
yes, that's right.
I remember you, Jonathan. This one's really for Captain Nick, who taught me about Eugene Bullard in his episode 311 Plaintail, All Blood Runs Red. Shamefully, I didn't know about Bullard. Is that the way you pronounce it, Bullard?
Yeah,
prior
I
to
speak French. I think it's probably Bullard.
I didn't know about Bullard prior to hearing that episode, but I was so glad to be educated via Captain Nick's incredibly well-told story. I was held in rapt attention through the entire episode, but when Captain Nick mentioned Eugene Bullard was buried at Flushing Cemetery, my ears perked up even more. I commute right past Flushing Cemetery every day on my way to and from the college where I teach. So today I got off the bus before my stop just so I could go to the cemetery, pay my respects, and take a couple of pictures for Captain Nick. It took me a moment to find the grave. As you can see, it isn't a large memorial, but a small, grass-covered name placard. I cleared away some of the grass, threw out an empty Bacardi schnapps bottle that did not seem to be in tribute, and unearthed the tin toy biplane you see in the pictures. The plane itself was partly buried in a couple of pieces, but I was happy to put it together and place it next to Bullard, who is buried with a group of French soldiers and airmen. Flushing Cemetery is huge, and I would never pay it much attention as my bus drove past, instead letting it blend into the background of my daily commute. However, now I know better. This is sacred ground for many reasons, not the least of which is it holds the first black fighter pilot. I only wish Bullard was given more. Flushing Cemetery is filled with towering statues. Flushing Cemetery is filled with towering statues and monuments, and one of those should be his. I'm inspired by the black superheroes we've seen on movie screens of late, and they make me hope for a world where we give all the real-life black heroes of history their due respect and appreciation. Hopefully, by sharing these pictures, I can contribute to the great work you started, Captain Nick, and increase awareness of this astounding historical figure who should never be forgotten. If you're ever in Flushing Cemetery, go to Section C, which runs right by 46th Avenue. You'll find Bullard right by the road, hopefully with a little toy biplane next to his final resting place. And then he includes the pictures that he took in the show notes, and I mean they'll be in the show notes for all of you to look at. And he signs off by saying, "Best, Jonathan." And there you go. So
that was really kind of Jonathan to do that, and particularly to send the pictures, because as we're assembling the Plain Tales page for the website, I'm appending photographs as title markers and some additional photographs there just to illustrate the stories, and this will be just perfect for that. So I've already sought Jonathan's permission to use his picture on the website, and he's kindly said we can, so that will be the title picture for this, and it looks absolutely great. I love that little biplane. I think just superb.
So perfect. I thought at first, before I read his text, I thought that maybe he had brought that and put that there, but apparently it had been buried there close by.
Yeah, looking at the picture, it looks like it's been there maybe for a little while too.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
I'm going to try to show everybody in the chat room the picture, and let's see. Somebody made the comment they saw my toolbar and the real airline name, so I'm going to see if I can hide my toolbar so you can't see that. Okay. Not like anybody out there really doesn't know.
It's like
really
scrubs in the movies, like when you see things you're not supposed to.
Yeah. Well, we ought to put a few furfs in there, a few things there to
distractors.
Distractors, yes.
So open up like every airline's page that you can think of.
Yeah. I have a folder that has my airline name, and that's one of the things on my toolbar there. Anyway, so I don't know. I can't really see the toolbar because the green screen thing that says you are screen sharing is blocking it. But
it's fine.
Can you guys see the picture okay?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Isn't that cool? Look at that nice little weathered biplane next to the headstone.
And I'm guessing those are French roundels on the wings. So someone's gone to the trouble of actually finding an aircraft that's appropriate.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Okay, now let's see if I can get this thing out of screen sharing mode. Oh, hey, it worked.
Hey.
It worked.
I'm always not sure whether I should do that or not because you know what happens.
Little side tangent here. The chat room was asking about that other picture of the airport that we couldn't identify earlier.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't. I wasn't sure if you were able to screen share anymore.
I did see that earlier,
Masha was
and
asking.
let's see. Let me go here since we're kind of on a
Maybe.
little break. We're on a break, and that's why we're dating other people. Friends reference.
Yes.
Was it Wade?
I don't have it up anymore because I just X out the.
That's what she said.
I know.
Okay, here we go. I found it. And let me, again, tempt fate again by sharing this. And voila.
There it is. So, anyone recognize the airport?
I don't have the chat up, so.
I'll see if someone says anything about it.
Okay. Yeah, it does look like, I think it looks like a European.
Well, he mentioned something about having gone to Sydney before, so I'm wondering if it's actually down under somewhere. I have no idea.
It might be. What's that tail in the lower right-hand corner?
Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure.
That might be the thing that would give it away. Because I don't recognize that.
No. I've never seen that.
It's pretty flat terrain, isn't it, around there? So there's not a lot to be going on with, really.
No. Okay.
Lufthansa doesn't fly down under. Okay. Well.
Lufthansa doesn't?
That's what Fabian says.
And he would know.
Oh, Interjet from Mexico?
Well.
So maybe it is in the U.S. I have no idea.
Perhaps it is.
May I also mention to Jonathan, he's saying it would be nice to have a meetup again in New York. I have a New York coming up next month, and I'll be at the New Yorker, the Wyndham New Yorker, and that is on the night of the 12th, Thursday the 12th, and the morning of Friday the 13th. So if it works out, Thursday the 12th might be a good New York meetup. We'll look at that.
Let's see. I'll be in New York on the 17th.
Well, if you can come to Lagos, I'll join you there.
No, thank you. I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, I thought you might. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there what is that, Tuesday the 17th? Yeah, Tuesday the 17th, we fly into Newark. And we leave out of Newark the next day, but it's a long enough layover where they put us in Manhattan at the Roosevelt Hotel. So I'll be in, would you call that Midtown Manhattan? 45th, 46th, next to Grand Central? Okay.
Yeah.
So we should have a meetup then on the 17th.
Yeah. I won't be there. But
you need to drop that Lagos trip. Did I get it right? Lagos.
Lagos.
Lagos. Lagos. Legos.
Legos. That's the one.
Okay.
And the Hoovian Toy Company.
Enough of that. Okay. So thanks again, Jonathan, for that. It was very nice feedback. I hope to have a chance to go visit the Flushing Cemetery sometime in the future myself. Did somebody say Flushing? All right. I'm sure the citizens of Flushing, New York really appreciate that.
Yes.
And they've never heard anything like that before.
No, never.
We've just lost another bunch of listeners.
Whoops.
The whole Flushing, New York contingent.
So much for the New York meetup. Okay, let's see. We don't have a lot of time left. I know we've taken a few breaks here and there, but I think we're getting close to that 3-hour mark again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see
I
anything?
think we're actually...
Well, I don't know. My recorder says 3 seconds, so...
yeah.
Mine says 3:27, but I started about 9 minutes early.
Right, and we did...
we did take a couple small breaks, but
little break.
That probably puts us right at the 3-hour mark.
Yeah, we're probably pretty close. And I knew that we weren't going to be able to get all this feedback in the feedback folder because of the long news segment.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking a look here at the items that we have remaining. Anything in there that you guys think that we should definitely cover on this show before we close it?
I think most of this stuff is pretty recent, so I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything pressing.
Okay.
There's nothing that's time sensitive. So
Well, why
I
don't
kind of like
we-
the very last one because it's funny. The number 16.
Yeah, that is funny. Why don't we just quickly do that, and then we'll do Steve and number 13. Okay, 16, Luke. So we got this from Luke. Jeff and Dana, are one of you missing a bag on your flight? I assume that was dispatcher Mike driving by the suitcase in the truck as he was probably busy fetching electronics left by careless passengers. This is, again, from Luke Langbing. And so I guess at the Hartsfield Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, somebody was looking out the window and noticed this suitcase. It's one of those, I guess, on like 4 castering wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And it was apparently set aside, and the wind was blowing pretty strongly out of it looks like the north, maybe, if I'm orienting myself properly here, or it could be the opposite. Anyway, the wind was blowing the bag, and the bag was going on its own like it had a mind of its own, like it was an animate object.
Pretty quickly, too. I'm amazed
Yeah.
at how fast it was rolling.
Me too. And I guess a flight attendant for some airline happened to be there and pulled out his cell phone and started taking some video. So you can look at the Instagram website of this flight attendant, which is interesting. But one of those interesting items is the video from his camera of this bag zooming down the ramp, the apron.
It reminded me so much of when I was on my first squadron, and we had a really bad windy day and we weren't flying, and we had a senior officer on the squadron who wasn't very well liked, and he always used to drive in with this very fancy Jaguar, which he parked in his special parking spot outside the front of the squadron. And it was a really windy day, and the engineers were out there on the line with these enormous big square toolboxes, big metal things on casters just like this. And we were doing ground training, and suddenly someone spotted one of these things set off across the apron in exactly the same way this bag was. And of course, we're all cheering, and no one's paying any attention to the lecturer, and we're all looking out the window cheering because we could see where it's going. And then the upstairs window blew open, well, thrown open by this flight commander who was out there screaming at the engineers to stop this thing. Stop that! Stop that! Stop that! Double back! And it just went into the back of his Jaguar, doing about 20 miles an hour.
No.
Oh, man. That did some damage.
Yeah, huge cheer from downstairs. It was a perfect DH. We loved it.
Really made your day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. All right. Thank you, Luke, for that. And again, check it out. Check the video out in the show notes. You'll be amused. And then finally, Stephen Ivy writes to help with some feedback that we received from an earlier episode regarding, I think it was Joe, sent us some feedback regarding advice from going from cabin crew to cockpit crew. And so without further ado, let's listen to Stephen with some advice for Joe.
Hey, APG crew, Stephen Ivy, the survey pilot from West Georgia. currently conducting aerial survey over somewhere in the United States. I was just listening to the latest episode and heard that Joe was looking for some advice on how to transition from cabin crew or ground staff over to the flight crew. I'm not overly familiar with the European cadet schemes and all that, like Captain Nick mentioned, but I do know that's usually your best way of getting in from not having any time to getting your experience to come work at the airlines. I know some of the bigger, I think BA, British Airways, Lufthansa Group. Now, when I say Lufthansa Group, I'm talking about the company that actually owns Lufthansa, because they recruit pilots for Lufthansa, Austrian Airlines, I believe one other one I can't think of right now. But look into those and see what their requirements are. I know a lot of them require a college education and things like that, and there's also there is some money I believe you have to pay as well, but you can look into those. You also might want to look at the Pilot Rumor Network Forum. I know that sounds really sketchy, but I am told it provides a lot of good information for finding work overseas with various airlines. That website is pprune.org. And you can probably connect with somebody up there that might be able to give you some better information on how to make that transition. I can tell you, though, that most of the European airlines, if you do get into that cadet program, you'll do a little bit of your training in Europe, and then you also may come over here to the United States and do some of your training down in South Florida. So there's just some different things to look at there, and I hope that helps you out. For those that are in the United States and that are thinking about doing it, I used to be a flight attendant for a regional airline here in the United States, and I also worked the ramp for Acme Global Services. And, you know, every time you would talk to a pilot or anybody, they'd tell you, well, you know, you do this, do this, do this. Well, about the time I was getting this information, the 1,500-hour rule getting implemented, so it was good information at the time, but it's kind of different now. So if you're in the United States, it's usually the best way to transitions, either abandon being a cabin crew member and attend college through a 141 program, so that way you can get the reduced hours restrictions to get to your ATP and all that. That's generally the easiest way to do it. If you prefer to keep working as a cabin crew member or any other job for that matter, just put back your money, try to find you a side job. I worked at the power company, and I also did Uber in my free time to help fund the ownership of an aircraft that I used to build time in. And a lot of people will tell you that that's a good way to build time, and it is. It's just not necessarily the cheapest option when maintenance comes up. But if you have a group of people that you can partner up with to build time, you know, you can do it that way. Other than that, you just really have to make your best effort for it. Don't be afraid to ask people questions on how they got there. You know, as Nick said, him and Jeff both came from the military route, so that makes things a little bit different, both on the European side and the United States side of things. But don't be afraid to ask questions. The aviation community is actually a lot smaller than you think it is. Connecting with one person could land you a job somewhere else. I know just me traveling around doing this job, I ran into another survey crew and found out about another job I could possibly pick up this summer. So there's always opportunities out there. So just always talk to people whenever you get the chance. But hope this feedback helps you out in your endeavor to transition from the cabin crew to the flight deck crew. And hope everyone else is doing well. And I'll send you some more feedback about myself and what's going on with the survey life in the future. Take care, y'all.
Steve and Ivy, the survey life.
Oh, yeah, it'll get better for him, though. I know he's just drilling holes in the sky right now, but soon we'll be able to drill holes in the sky for an airline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he's able to do something productive like record audio feedback. while he's drilling the holes in flying the lines.
I wrote a whole plane tale yesterday.
You know, would that make him a line pilot because he flies the lines?
He's flying lines
very
back
good,
and forth across.
Anyway, thanks, Stephen, for taking the time to do that. I'm sure Joe will appreciate it, and I will send him your contact information directly via email. So if he has any more questions, he'll be able to get in touch with you. That's what's so great about this APG community. Everybody, helps everybody out here. We're all one big family.
You bet.
So anyway, looks like we're going to have to put off the rest of the items that we had selected for our feedback on this show, like Ben asking a question about aircraft deliveries across the pond. Luke was going to help us, or help me, identify the crop duster that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. Ben talking about driving a finger. Driving a finger into what?
I could do that.
Yeah. And
now, family show.
Yeah. I was even thinking of that stuff. Oh my. Preparing for
no, just his. I was only referring to what he actually broadcast on the video.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were paying attention to that, but
no.
Anyway.
Let's see. Chuck has a question
good
about
grief.
Good grief. Chuck has a question about preparing for glider ratings. And Miles asks a question about air refueling for commercial aircraft. So that and so much more, including perhaps your feedback. You can send it to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com. Head over to the Airline Pilot Guy website. We have a feedback form there as well. That's airlinepilotguy.com. And the apps that we have available, the Airline Pilot Guy apps in both the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store for... why can't I think of the platform?
What was the question? Android? iOS?
Thank you.
Android?
I knew it started with an A. Yeah, Google Play Store for Android. Man, I'm going to have to retire soon. I can't think straight.
We're going to do your checkup after this.
Yeah, I do. I need a psychological checkup, I think. Let's see. And social media. Steph.
Oh, I'm back to doing social media. Nick did such a good job filling in for me while I was.
Well, Nick can do it then.
I'm going to talk about meetups in a second.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Social media, you can head over to Twitter. Our handle there is @APG Crew and interact with us. We're all there and happy to answer your questions or comments. Same thing on Facebook, facebook.com/Airline Pilot Guy. More stuff available there because it's not limited to that 280 characters. But people do share articles and interesting aviation related things, and we're all there as well.
There you go. And I mentioned Slack earlier in the show, and you can become part of the Slack group by listening to this guy here. Hello.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
And I think that Nick has one more mention of something that's occurring relatively soon after this show.
Yeah, well, we'd mentioned at the top of the broadcast, but that was too earlier for most Franciscans to take account of because they will only have just got up. But for those in the area of San Francisco, I'll be heading off down to the Thirsty Bear Organic Brewery, which is on 661 Howard Street in San Francisco. By the way, a San Franciscan, is that an order of monks? I'm not sure. Anyway, so if you want to join our special order of San Franciscans and the APG community, come and join us this afternoon down there. And by the time this is out, the podcast, guys, forget about it. You're too late. So if anyone's around, I'll be down there from about, I don't know, it opens at 12, so just after 12 probably, until about 5 in the afternoon. I know Fred's coming down. Good chance Tim Van Ram will be down. And Jamie, I think, a budding pilot there.
Wait for it.
Anyway,
there you go.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Which bit did you miss?
Just where
Jamie,
you were
budding
describing
pilot.
who was going to be meeting up with you.
Yeah, Jamie Budding Pilot. Might be Landon, might be anyone else who's in the area who has nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon than drink beer and talk to pilots. That'd be great.
Well, what else is there?
Exactly.
All right. Outstanding. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
All the best, everybody.
Someone take the soundboard away from him.
Was that supposed to be Dana saying goodbye?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Wow. All right. There you go.
I'll just add that in the very end. Wow. Well, it sounds like it might be time for...
Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't open for an hour, so I'm just going to lie back on that lovely set of white sheets over there.
Make sure you actually get up.
Well, that's the only problem. If I close my eyes, I might never open them again.
Call for a wake-up call.
Yeah, wake-up call / set an alarm on your iPhone.
There's a few CBs building up outside here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about...
Farnborough.
Or maybe we should do that after we end the broadcast and come up with some kind of a plan, because we need to start talking about that.
Get on an airplane, come to Farnborough. Questions?
Oh, yes, I know. That's so simple. Always. I mean,
okay.
It is.
Well, then what's to talk about, really?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. No,
Okay.
I'll be here. I'll be here for an hour yet.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us in the chat room.
Yeah, brilliant.
Appreciate it. Too much fun with the sounds today, Jeff, James says.
No, not enough. We love them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we know that Nick was breaking up. First Officer Mike, thank you.
And Dana says goodbye. Bye.
Wow.
Wow.
Surprisingly realistic animation.
Yeah, it looks... Yeah, you're quite an artist.
I think that was a compliment.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Near as I can tell.
Anyway, so thanks for hanging out with us on a Saturday morning. Well, it sounds like it kind of seems like we're doing this on a regular basis all of a sudden. But I'll try to get this thing edited and out by the end of the weekend. I go back out on Monday for a 3-day. And then I'm off to California for some personal stuff.
I just thought I'd mention that when I land from this, I don't fly again until the 10th of next month.
Wow.
Wow, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got one simulator session, but the
For
rest
real this
is
time?
well, it's still on my roster, so they haven't taken it away yet. And then I'm grounded after the end of the month because I've run out of my other simulator session, which they have still yet to give me, but should be occurring on the 10th of next month, which is why I'm not working until then.
Goodness.
Wow.
Sounds
like a
Right on top of everything.
Look, I just sit in the corner and stay quiet.
Don't say anything. Yeah,
Usually
that's
the
like
best strategy.
Okay, are you going to say anything? No, are you? No. Okay. We'll just carry on. Okay, speaking of carrying on, that's what we're going to do. So, again, thanks everybody for being here for the live show.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
We'll
Even
see you
First Officer Mike. Thanks.
sometime next week. Maybe.
Cheers, Rich.
Bye.